Call the Pleasant Valley Board of Education meeting to order. If you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then please stay standing for a moment of silence. And we did just lose a retired employee. Please keep the Gower family in your thoughts and prayers. And Mr. Krasinski, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone that's with us on this beautiful warm day, and hopefully it'll stay that way for the whole month of March. If we could have roll call, please.
Here. Here. Here.
Present.
Present. Here.
Here. Thank you. I would like to let everyone know that we did have an executive session this evening, March the 13th of 2025, immediately prior to this meeting for purposes of personnel matters, including but not limited to performance and or discipline, negotiations, and legal issues. This evening, we do have a community partnership for gun safety program presentation. Mr. Jake Jacobson and Dr. Cellino, if you would, please. Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
And Bill Parrish is also here.
Oh, okay.
We'll get through introductions if you don't mind that.
No, not
I'll
at
go
all.
back to the microphone. Is that how you'd like to do it?
Yep, please.
Bill? Go ahead.
I'm Bill Parrish. I retired chief of police from Sparrow Regional, retired chief of police from Strasburg University, and currently working with the Monroe County District Attorney's Office on a mental health program, trying to have a unified response to individuals in crisis between law enforcement and mental health.
Okay.
And part of the gun violence.
Jake Jacobson, Gulf War veteran, retired police officer, worked with this gentleman here. He was actually
All the gray hair.
Like I said, retired from the police department. I was asked by our district attorney, I was called to put together this program that Dr. Cellino is about to present. Got very lucky in this one. Between having Dr. Cellino and Bill Parrish here, together, all three of us bring different avenues to this whole program that I think is really going to be beneficial to our students here in Monroe County. So with that being said, turn it over to Dr. Cellino.
Thank you, and thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. 24 years being in front of boards as a superintendent, I still get nervous every time I'm as Jake said, he gave me a call a number of months ago to see if I'd want to get involved in this program. This is a state grant, and Monroe County was chosen as a pilot. The reason why Monroe County was chosen as a pilot is because we lead the state average and the national average in suicide deaths by gun. And what we're trying to accomplish here, there's several things happening in this grant. And I'm going to be very brief. I'm not reading off the presentation, and I assure you, all the board members, you're going to have the same copy of the presentation via email that I present to the executive committee of this group. So you'll have this. So please don't think that I'm, reading things that you're not going to get. So the bottom line is this. We have what we call unexpected discharge in this country. What that means is if a child goes into a house or a young adult goes into a house and someone happens to handle a weapon, this is why the grant is out there. Someone has a weapon in the house and it's not stored properly. What happens is, I don't care how many times you tell that child, stay away from that gun, don't ever go near that gun if you're the father, if you're the mother, whoever you are in that household. At some point, they're going to go near that gun. And what we wind up having is an unexpected discharge where a child is either maimed or killed. Happens way too often in this country. So number one, we're trying to educate kids and adults on the safety, how important it is to properly store guns in the household. And then what we're trying to do, and that's why we're here in front of the schools, there's a couple pieces here. We're also, that's why Chief Parrish is so important in all this, is because many people, many families have individuals that are dealing with mental health issues, mental health crises in their homes, okay? And some of those same homes have weapons that aren't stored properly. So that's a very, very dangerous mix. So what we're doing as part of this grant as well, and through the sheriff's office and of course through our wonderful prosecutor, we will store your weapons. We're not gonna come and take your weapons. That's not what we are about. We will store your weapons in a time of crisis. If you have someone in your home that's dealing with a mental health issue, and you let us know, we will gladly store your weapons and get them out of the house for you, so so nobody has access to those guns. The next part is, how do we find out what kids know about guns? How do we find out what kids have experienced? So what we're asking all the school districts in Monroe County to do for us is to allow us to do a survey that's already been nationally normed. I'm going to give you some examples of questions that are on the survey. It's going to be completely anonymous. It'll be done through SurveyMonkey. We'd like to do this sometime during the month of May or whatever's convenient for you folks. That's what we're looking to do. So what I want to do right now is I'm going to switch over and get out of this one slide in a minute, and then we're going to go give you some examples of what's on these questions, what some of the questions are that kids are going to have. It's going to take maybe 10 to 15 minutes. And when I say that it's been nationally normed already, questions, what that means is they don't have to be researched any farther. They don't have to go through the Institutional Review Board to protect individuals from the questions themselves. If you're not familiar with that, it's a whole process you have to go through when you're going to be surveying students or adults for that matter. So a couple of questions might be, let me go back to one of the earlier sheets here. Please indicate if you have been exposed to the following scenarios, marking no or yes. Seen someone threaten another person with a gun. Seen someone hurt another person with a gun. Seen someone shooting a gun in public. Heard not seen a gun being shot in public. Known someone who killed themselves or tried to kill themselves with a gun. Have you ever been threatened with a gun? So that's just a part of what we want to find out so we can better provide the educational programming. Now, who's going to do the educational programming? We were on 103 yesterday, 103.1, Jake and I, and the question came up, is this going to be a class in schools? No. As a former superintendent, that's not what I'm here for. That's not what this is about. The educational program is going to come out of the sheriff's department. From the safety aspect, the sheriff's department is going to be teaching the kids and adults that choose to attend these courses the educational piece. We're not asking the school district to have a curricular piece. We're not asking the school district to add a teacher. That's not what this is about. But we can't get that information as to how we should design this educational programming without doing the survey. And since we are a pilot for the state of Pennsylvania, it's important that we can get that information out. So I'm not here to force anybody to do anything. We're just asking permission to do this. Again, this is going to be this is being run through the prosecutor's office. They're approved by the county commissioners. And we are a pilot for the state of Pennsylvania. The reason why we were chosen is because of the numbers that we have. Again, it's above the state and national average with gun violence. So we need to kind of tune in on this one. And that's what we're here for. I understand your time is valuable. I figured we'd get here tonight and talk about why we're here. Bill, go ahead.
I just want to emphasize one thing, because I heard some groans when it talks about storing individuals' weapons. This has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. This has nothing to do with taking firearms from anyone. This is about recognizing the number of firearms in homes and preventing tragedy. Preventing tragedy in this environment, when we talk about gun safety, a lot of times it's more like hunter safety. It's respect the weapon and all that, which is of value for young hunters and everything. But when you have a number of children that don't have experience, don't go hunting, that either there's a firearm in the house or they go to a friend's house who wants to show their hunting weapon or firearm. It's about the responsibility of securing it to prevent accidents, unintended consequences. It is in no way shaped to preach, to educate, to condone any seizure of firearms or prevent anyone from buying them. It's just responsible safety once you have one.
Bill, excellent points. Please understand that the only reason why we would store weapons for you at the sheriff's department is if you ask us to do it. We're not gonna come to your house and say, hey, by the way, we're here, you're having a problem with one of your kids or an adult in your house. We're gonna take your, that's not what we're about, okay? We are not about taking anybody's guns. We don't want to. One of the statistic that really hit me when the prosecutor asked me to get involved was that 2/3 of every house in Monroe County has a legal weapon in it, at least one. 2/3. I was kind of blown away by that. And I'm a gun owner. So I'll just put that right out there. So we are not about trying to take anybody's weapons. But when you hear the 2/3, so when you think about it this way, you can go anywhere you want in the state of Pennsylvania, you can buy a handgun, probably, or a gun. You can have it in 20, 25 minutes as you go through all the legal processes. We're not questioning that. Then you can go to the sheriff's department with two references, and within a month, you can have a carry permit. But at no time in between those two processes, do you have to take a course on how to safely store that gun or use that gun. Think about that for a second. But if you're a hunter, as Chief Parrish brings up, you have to take a 3-hour course. But if you just want to be a gun owner, you don't have to take anything like that. So imagine the kids that get into these houses. My granddaughter is 6 years old. She's going to eventually go to someone's house that maybe that person is not responsible in storing their weapons. Whether they have them legally or not is a whole different issue. They're going to get their hands on them. That's what we want to try to prevent. Unexpected discharge. Important stuff as far as we're concerned. Jake?
And if I could just add, the other aspect of this is what Dr. Polino said, 2/3 of homeowners have registered guns in their house. Living really close to the West End, consider myself a West Ender. I'm definitely a gun owner and many guns. So like Dr. Polino said, we're not here to take guns. However, I think it's important that people coming into our area, it's a lot easier to purchase a gun in Pennsylvania than it is in New Jersey and New York. So I can buy that gun, I can get my permit and so forth. How do I secure it? Well, that's another aspect that we're gonna touch with night classes at whether local firehouse. I know your state representative Jack Rader's involved. He said at the firehouses sometimes you're standing room only. We're gonna be providing gun safety locks free of charge and teaching the gun owners, some of the gun owners that don't know how to secure them properly, various ways to secure that so that their kids aren't in danger. So it's a twofold process. So thanks.
So
I was serving as the interim superintendent at East Stroudsburg. Got a call from one of the larger developments up there, and 2 12-year-olds somehow got their hands on a weapon, and the one 12-year-old wound up shooting the other 12-year-old. So again, improper storage. Was the weapon legal? Yes, it was. Was it not stored properly? Yes, it was. Not stored properly. So that's clearly an issue, and that's one of our biggest missions. And the mental health piece is huge as well. There's some scenarios I can get into that have happened in this county that perhaps could have been avoided if we had this system available where the sheriff's office would bring them to us, we're going to store them for you. And once you're over the crisis, and Chief Parrish is part of that group that can get in and provide mental health services, it's huge.
could you explain to me the process of this survey
Sure.
and what age group of students are you
That
looking,
was my question.
you
No, we're
know?
looking at the high
and-
school kids. We're not looking to go lower than the high school kids at this point in time. So we'd like to do the high school kids, and it would be run through whatever program, whatever course every student has to take, i.e. it could be an English class, could be whatever it is. Whatever is decided within the building, we're not going to determine that. And it's done through SurveyMonkey, and it is completely anonymous. So it's not like we can go back and say, oh, well, this student mentioned that they saw a handgun. We have no way of getting back to that.
And are the questions already formulated?
Yes, they are.
Okay, they are.
Yes.
Okay, so that's something we'll be able to see?
Yep.
Okay,
I was glad.
It's
that
not-
you got this.
it's not included here. I have this.
No, it is not.
Okay,
Definitely not. They weren't, The survey had not been completed. We have a group called
I think,
the Carry Group.
yeah, I
that's-
thought I saw that in here real
handling the
briefly.
survey scores.
Okay.
Have the surveys yet to be implemented in any of the school districts in this area?
They have not, because no, you're the first school board that we're in front of. Although the other school boards know why we're coming,
Okay.
but no, none of the surveys have been given yet. We're not at that point where we would do that.
Now, you mentioned this is being piloted here in Pennsylvania. and
In Monroe County,
Is there other states that have done it, and what are the results? And
not that we are aware of. There's other programs out there for gun safety, but this particular style of how we're doing it, how it's being handled here for this grant, we're not aware that anybody else is helping. So we are absolutely a pilot for the state of Pennsylvania in Monroe County.
And we are scheduled, we're gonna be in front of East Stroudsburg next Monday night. Forgot to mention, I'm East Stroudsburg School Board President for the last 4 years. 16 years, so I know I don't wanna take up too much of your time, you wanna get out of here, I can't. I just came from a committee meeting. So you guys got me out early. So on Wednesday, we'll be in front of my board, and then from there, it's.
And March 1st, in front of Pocono Mountain School Board.
April 2nd.
Yeah, did you look at any other pilot programs at all? Or how did you decide on your structure?
I didn't write the grant. So there was a group of people that wrote the grant for Monroe County. So I can't answer that question, sir. I'm sorry. I did not write the grant. Have I looked at other programs in other states? The answer is yes. And they're going down the same path as we are, but not necessarily for the same reason why they have to. And the reason why this grant was written was because of what I mentioned before. There's clearly a need here.
And then after the surveys are finalized, then what?
Then we will develop the educational programming and get adults, there's an adult survey as well. And then also the student survey out there and develop the educational programming so that we can put programs together to better educate the students.
And what's the timeline?
It's a 3-year grant and we started late simply because that's kind of how things work. But I only came on board in November, and Jake, the same thing, it was November, the grant started probably 6 months prior to that. The grant was awarded to Monroe County several months prior to that. So, but it is a 3-year grant.
And I just want to add one other scary component that I've seen over, I hate to say this, 49 years of police work. My instinct tells me more guns are purchased today in Monroe County for self-defense rather than hunting, which would have been a past. Individuals with those guns think and believe that they're so at risk of a home invasion that they keep these guns under their pillow, in a nightstand drawer, because access at a time of need is paramount in their mind. And you may have young kids, not have kids at all yet, and you get into that habit. And kids, it's amazing what they hear that you don't know they hear. It's amazing what they see that you're trying to hide from them. And them coming across these guns. And they now have safes, personal safes with a fingerprint. You have it open. And because statistically, guns are more likely to be used accidentally in the home, or I lost my train of thought. Accidentally in the home,
It's 'cause he's
or by, you know,
It's a gray area.
I gotta say that to my chief.
but for reasons that they're unintended for. And that's all we're trying to prevent. And as a young police officer with young kids, I put it on top of the refrigerator for a few years. It became habit. Until I heard my son tell someone, that just keeps his gun on top of the refrigerator. Imagine what kids do to get a cookie out of the cookie jar. They can get anywhere in that house.
Yeah.
So I learned a lesson, and I hope to spare others the tragedies that we see occurring on a regular basis on the national news.
12-year-old little boy was in his parents' bedroom, came across a handgun and shot his 6-year-old sister and killed her. That's just within the last 4 months. Last summer in Tamaqua, an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old, they first claimed that they were fooling around in a garage and the gun fell off a shelf. It's the type of gun that could not, you could throw it against the wall, it's not gonna fire. It has to be fired, the trigger has to be pulled. And they say it fell off the shelf and it shot the 16-year-old in the chest and killed him. Then he finally changed his story and said, well, we were fooling around with the gun. And again, these were legal weapons, but the access is the scary part for us. And that's the only reason why I'm involved, by the way. I just felt it was a great cause. There's just no doubt in my mind it's a great cause. So we're just asking for your help, if you would be so kind as to go through Dr. Conrad and we can talk. You don't need an answer
That's
tonight.
where I was going.
So
Okay,
please don't feel that way.
all right,
Okay.
okay, all right.
We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. It's great seeing you.
You're welcome to stay for the business meeting.
So like 11, 12. And working.
See it, John. Good seeing you, brother.
It's great seeing you.
We're gonna excuse ourselves.
All right. The next item on our agenda is a nomination for a representative to serve on the Colonial Intermediate Unit 20 Board. We're actually going to skip over that. Mr. Galler's position doesn't expire until June 30th, and we're not sure what we're going to do yet, so we're just going to move on. All right, student highlights, PVE, Mr. Pompacello and Ms. Adams.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
So Ms. Adams and I we took a different approach this time because I come up here every board meeting and thank the parents. I tell everybody it's 50% home, 50% at school. Well, the West End's been really helping PD out a lot. We're kind of like the hub down there for the 5 to 7-year-olds, between the sports fields and all the community stuff we're doing. So we tried to highlight some of that this time. So we're gonna go together. So that's what you're gonna see, a little bit how the whole community's helping out PVE, educate the kids. So go ahead, Chuck.
All right, so Mr. Pompacello actually writes this in every Connect Ed.
Whoa.
You make sure everybody knows as always, it always starts at PVE, but it does take a team effort. And so we try to communicate that every week. And I think that we're trying to bring the community in more and more, and that's what we want to highlight tonight.
Takes a village.
It does.
All right, so one of the cool things we're doing right now, Oats and Bagels. This has been a very, very exciting thing going on at PVE this year. Brand new. Candace Guzos, I'll give her all the credit. She came to me about the idea. I loved it. We invite the parents in the morning from 8:30 to 9 o'clock. You get a bagel and a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate. You get to come with one of your parents. So it's the student and the parent come and you learn about all the stuff that's available media-wise in the library. And I usually go there, say hello. So Mr. Eric comes too, so just Adam. But what we promote is Easter break, the summer slide, all that. There are things you can still go onto the PV Bears portal. There's plenty of stuff in there to keep your kid reading and keep up to date and everything. Okay.
This is currently going on, so they just started yesterday, and Ms. Sponsor is calling them informances. Again, she came to Ms. Pompacello with this idea, and it's kind of like bring your parent to music class. So parents get to come in, they get to see what their child does during music class. I think it's been amazing. The only thing I've heard is they're not always thrilled that a flute goes home with their child.
Yes.
I've heard some things about that, but otherwise they're absolutely loving it.
Yeah, that's a positive. Parents love this. This is something new we're doing. But once again, the cool thing is Joe sponsors the music teacher came to me.
Yeah.
So this is all intrinsically by teachers coming to the principal saying, hey, can we reach out to the community more? How awesome is that? That's great. You should be proud of that.
Yeah.
All right, guest readers. You guys are even on there. Thank you. We got the board members on here. We have Sanofi, one of the biggest employers in Monroe County. They came to read the partnership with St. Luke's. There's our buddy Jake Starwar, Fox 56 reporter, PVE alum. He had all my teachers, and of course, he went through our system. So he's going to be a big shot in the national news someday, I think. Waste management, we partner with them for all our stuff. So, and of course, Mrs. Bush's, she's been here, Miss Bush's personal home. They've been here for a long time. Ladies come in and help out, and so that's just an awesome thing we do every year too. And thank you for some of you coming in past few weeks.
We highlighted this in the fall, but our butterfly garden was another great community project because we did have a Girl Scout troop that was helping, and then also the CARES program came in, and we couldn't have put it all together and so quickly without both of those groups.
The butterfly garden's awesome. The spring you guys need to come down. All right, Veterans Day. Everybody knows this is one of my favorites of all time. I know you really get into it, but we used to do like 70 and 100 vets every year from the West End of Monroe County come. So it's just an amazing event. Brings tears to my eyes every year. But getting to see all the relatives come in and be with their kids, it's literally amazing. Got the bagpipes going in the hallways, and it's just a really nice thing to do to all the veterans of the West End. The kids love it.
Crafts and Carols was awesome. It was a kindergarten event. The parents got to come in, the teachers read a story, that connected that story with 2 different songs that the students performed, and then they got to get together with their child and make a snow globe. That was the craft.
Toys for Tots, almost 900 toys this year, everybody. And the coolest thing about this event, we do the parade, every single kid brings a toy to the Marines, but every single toy we get goes to a Monroe County family. Monroe County, it all stays in this county, which I love that. So, and our school always steps up to help the other schools, central office, to get that many toys out of one building. I mean, you guys know John the Toy Man. He leaves every year, literally so emotional about it. That, just another great event of giving.
Fire Prevention Week. This year we had 3 different community fires companies with us. We had West End, Polk, and then also Jackson Township, and the students were able to learn all about fire safety. I think their favorite part is going through the smokehouse. They always enjoy that every year, and then getting to see a teacher climb all the way up the ladder. Those are their 2 big highlights from that, but we're so thankful to have them each and every year. They do a great job.
Yeah, we also partnered with Monroe County 911 Control Center. And the second graders learned when we call 911 and when we don't call 911. You guys be shocked how many second graders have a cell phone. So they get educated. These are the only times you should be calling 911, right? But and also they brought some of their machines and trucks over. So that was a pretty great day too.
That was another teacher brought it to us.
Yes, that's the coolest thing. This is a lot of this is teachers coming to us.
We also try to involve other PV students between PBI, the middle school, the high school. Obviously, we have them coming over at the pep rallies, but we also have 5th graders and other students from PVE coming over. They partnered at Christmas to do an activity where they were writing letters. We also did a Unity Day activity where they were sharing information, and then some of our 5th graders came down to read during Read Across America.
This is the tutoring pro in the morning. Once again, another teacher, Stacy Meckes, came to me with an idea. Hey, what if we got together with some people in the West End, retired teachers, some of the different outlets here in the West End. It's just some of those being parents. Right now we have 11 full-time tutors there that help us out with the kids, and that's all. Once again, they don't get paid or anything. Just like you guys on the board, they come just to help little kids learn in the West End of the county here. It's just amazing.
And really, we just wanted to take tonight as an opportunity to thank all of those different groups, the students, all of the stakeholders between the PVE community, our West End community. We just wanted to take the time to thank them for all they do, and then also highlight our teachers for the awesome ideas that they've been bringing to us.
And the last thing I have, I just like to do this for everybody really quick, just so everybody knows a few nuggets about PVE. So you know, it's the second largest elementary school in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, right? It's big. Kindergarten right now has 322 kids enrolled, set to graduate 2037. Okay, total enrollment in PVE today is 916. Sorry, guys. So the breakfast and lunch counts, we have just under 300 kids eating breakfast for free every day, just over 600 eating lunch every day. Those are pretty good numbers. Transportation, this is interesting. We have, out of the 916, 716 on average take the bus. 200 actually get dropped off and picked up. That's interesting. The last thing are nurses who are such hard workers. They see an average of 90 students every single day. Because, you know, 5 to 7-year-olds, they get boo-boos and have to be checked on. And we're so proud of my staff. Like I said, most of the interesting is Adams is doing a phenomenal job as the AP. And thank you for all your support and everything you guys do for where it all starts, down at K2.
Thank you, Roger. That was a great presentation, and thank you to the community for everything that they do for all of our students here at PV. I do have a question.
Sure.
So what's the incoming enrollment for kindergarten?
Numbers are healthy. I'm about, I think, between 190 and 200 right now.
Okay,
So talking to Kristen Carey, my guidance secretary, we're a little above where we usually are.
at this
So,
time.
and the 322K number right now, I've been averaging around 300,
I know, I thought that-
293, we're actually higher.
I thought that was high.
So, and if you look at the stats with Monroe County, there's a chance might be a little bump, you guys remember the COVID years? So, might be a little bit of a bump for you.
Yeah, I've got one coming next year that's a COVID baby, actually.
Might be a little bit of minor boom.
She was bored. Okay. Well, thank you again. It was a great presentation. All right, moving on to superintendents. Dr. Conrad, any community questions this evening?
Yes, good evening, everyone. There were 6 community questions that were submitted. 3 community questions were submitted from Evie DeNovo from Chestnut Hill Township. The first question asked, what is PADLAF stand for? And this is the Pennsylvania School District Liquid, Jesus, sorry. Pennsylvania School Board, we'll try that again. Pennsylvania School Board, School District Liquid Asset Fund. Second question asked where employees are traveling for the reading curriculum. There are no employees traveling for the reading curriculum. The third question asked if it is mandatory by the state to purchase new reading curriculum every 3 years. And the answer to that question is no, it's not required. However, the last reading curriculum was purchased in 2018, so that was 7 years ago. So obviously we took a look at our data, we took a look at certain areas that we need to place a little bit more emphasis on, and that's what led us down the path of revitalizing our primary resources for reading curriculum for the district. Okay. The next 3 questions were submitted by Denise Hopley from Chestnut Hill Township. First question asked, what specifically the travel under the procurement card is? The expenses are for TIMS registration, special education conferences, NWEA conferences, PASPO conference, state facility licenses, and diesel additive, which are all required a credit card payment. The second question asked about the finance charges on the procurement card and how to avoid them. When a procurement card is submitted for a purchase, a form must be filled out and submitted to the superintendent and the business manager before the card can be approved. So there's an approval process. The card is held in the business office in a safe. Some purchases require a credit card in lieu of a check. The business manager reviews the request before the card is issued for use. There are no charges for using the credit card. The final question asked about the program of studies and what the elective courses are. What's on the agenda tonight is an addendum for the program of studies. Remember, we had this on the last agenda. There was a couple of things we wanted to clarify, and ultimately what it's doing is providing clarification for the graduation requirements for students that are attending MCTI. Related to the program of studies, please refer to what's posted online. The program of studies are accessible on our district website, and there's a list of the courses as well as the description. So, and that was it. So thank you for submitting questions.
Thank you. Moving on in the agenda, Mrs. Smale, please, Secretary's report.
Good evening. Tonight I'm requesting approval of the minutes of the meeting held on February 27th, 2025, and approval of the March 13th, 2025 board meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Berger, seconded by Mr. Walters. Is there any discussion?
I'll need to abstain from the minutes for the February 27th meeting for not being here.
Anyone else?
Same for me.
Okay, anyone else? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries. At this time, are there any Pleasant Valley citizens that would like to address the board? Please come to the podium, state your name, the township you reside in, and there is a 3-minute limit. Also, the agenda item you're speaking to, please.
Okay, I was just talking about Denise Hopley, sorry, President, Chestnut Hill Township. I'm just not sure with the procurement card again, with, there's no travel on that one? Nobody's traveling on that? It's just all separate charges for the month. Those procurement cards, I thought had 1.5 to 4% interest. Okay, and, you said there weren't any charges, but it says for travel, et cetera, and you gave us 5 things that I could quickly write down, so I'm not exactly sure. Okay, so that's that question. The program and study, they were addendums to what was out there, because it says for the graduation credits, and it's not showing any of the electives for physics, for robotics, for business, et cetera, they're not in there at all. So, and the health and phys ed are cut, or are they additions, because it says 0.50 by 2028. Yeah, 2028. So I'm not exactly sure if you're cutting phys ed, you're cutting health, you're cutting wellness, you're cutting business, cutting some of the sciences, if that's what it looks like, those 4 programs that were listed. Just that you've answered that they were addendum, so it's not really clear, so I don't have some clarification on that. Other people are asking questions. And then, something, I don't know what's different, freshmen have to have 7.5 and everybody else has to have 6.5 in 2025. And congratulations to the Singer Scholarship winners, right? Anaya Asilian, Zach Prater, Brianna Palmieri, Olivia Earhart. And then the work session, 8A. When will you be discussing the whole budget?
If that's a work session question, it would be,
So it's not listed that there's a community.
There will be.
Oh, there is?
Yeah.
Okay, then I can save those. I just want to make sure I cover that procurement part, because I'm not exactly sure with the specifics. You glanced over the entire question with it, and I was concerned about the charges. And then the expenditure part, I don't know why I can't spell this out to the community. It's just very confusing and vague, and this is the communication we've been talking about ad nauseum. It's like, what is this? And we don't know where $9,925.56 is about. So clarity is really important to us, but we're not still getting it. And then I'll just save the rest of them for working session.
All right, seeing no one else approach the podium, we will move on. Oh, I forgot to ask someone to do the treasurer's report. Mr. Walters, would you like to do? Or not?
No, I don't.
All right, good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask someone to do this without Mrs. Surface being here this evening, but we do need a motion for items 4B through D.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Galler, seconded by Mr. Clark. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries. Mr. Fitzgerald, unfinished business, please.
this could be unfinished business, it could be new business. It's generally with an eye towards everything going on in Washington and lawsuits that seem to be coming left and right from attorney generals, from school districts, from parents. It is just, I've been doing this long enough to be able to say this has been the craziest 90 days legally, regulatory wise, that school districts have faced, with the irony being nothing yet has really impacted or changed the law for Pleasant Valley. I do think as we watch the U.S. Department of Education shutter itself, and in particular the Philadelphia office, which impacts this area, that change will be coming, and what that will specifically look like is still unknown. As I've said to many school districts that I represent and have heard from many superintendents, that we're keeping an eye on these things, and when there is an absolute impact, whether it be legally, regulatory wise, or funding wise, we'll certainly be on top of that. So I just wanted to keep you apprised of that.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any other unfinished? Okay, moving on to new business. Under Career and Technical Institute, Mrs. Surface's report is attached. Colonial IU, Mr. Gower.
Report is attached, nothing else.
Thank you. Mrs. Zip, the SBA liaison.
Nothing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Under education, I do not have anything at this time. Excuse me, finance report. Again, Mrs. Surface isn't with us, but there's items on our agenda later on. Athletic report, Mr. O'Keefe.
Good evening. I'm happy to announce that we had congratulations to senior Brady Jerome, being selected to represent PB at this year's Lehigh Valley Football Scholar Athlete Banquet, where he earned the Scholar Athlete Award. The event was held on Sunday, March 2nd, 2025, and I just want to shout out to him, keep up the amazing work, and best luck in your future endeavors. Also a huge congratulations and shout out to our first ever female wrestler, Julia Trout, who represented PB Wrestling at States on March 6th to the 8th, 2025. Congratulations on an incredible season. I cannot wait to see what.
Thank you. Policy report, Mrs. Zip.
There are two policies on the agenda for approval this evening. Policy 209 for health examination and screenings, and policy 805.2, school security personnel.
Thank you. Capital improvement, Mr. Berger.
Our next scheduled meeting will be on the 27th of the month. I'll have a report then.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, technology. All right, thank you. Mr. Walters, security.
I actually have two things. One, security is working on operations plan for next month's Special Olympics. And then two, Chief Milner's team is looking into numbering the exterior windows in the buildings to match the interior windows. This is for first responders based off of Pennsylvania State Police, the RVAT report, and that's in motion right now.
Thank you. All right, superintendent's reports. Dr. Conrad.
Tonight I'm seeking approval for board agenda items 7A and 8A.
None, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries.
Human Resources, Mrs. Fuller.
Yes, good evening. Tonight I'm seeking approval of items 9B through 9E. Items 9F through 9H are informational.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Walters, seconded by Mr. Berger. Any discussion? Hearing of none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Tonight I'm seeking approval of items 10B through 10E. Items 10F through 10I are informational.
So moved.
Second?
A motion by Mr. Berger, seconded by Mrs. Zip. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries.
For curriculum, I'm seeking approval for item 11D, 11C, and 12A.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Galler, seconded by Mr. Walters. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries.
Operations, Mr. Smith.
Good evening. Tonight I'm seeking approval of item 13A.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. O'Keefe, seconded by Mr. Walters. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries.
Business Management, Mrs. Tammy Smith.
Tonight I'm requesting approval of items 14B through 14G.
So moved.
Second.
The motion by Mr. Berger, seconded by Mr. Walters. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries.
I am also requesting approval of item 15B.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Galler and seconded by Mr. Berger. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And that motion carries. Under new business, Mr. Fitzgerald.
There is no new business this evening.
Okay, thank you. Pleasant Valley citizens, does anyone like to address the board?
P12? You want me to go up there now? I'm gonna do 12.
Yes, Dr. Conrad did.
Oh, is it?
Seeing no one approach the podium, Pleasant Valley school directors. Good evening this evening. I just want to make two statements. The procurement of card, Dr. Conrad did give you a list of what is being paid under that, with that card. And there is no charges on that card. Mrs. Surface and I come in every Monday prior to a board meeting and review every bill that is being paid the evening of the board meeting. She takes one half, I take the other half. Tammy can attest, we've questioned many bills, we've asked many questions, and one of my stickling points is finance charges and freight charges. So there aren't any additional charges on that procurement card. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. And as far as the program of studies, these are just addendums. You really need to look at the whole program of studies, which is online. Everything is there. We aren't eliminating any courses. So again, look at the whole thing. It'll probably be easier to look at now since the addendum is approved. Just go on and look at the whole program of studies.
So why isn't the?
No, sorry. Anyone else? Okay. Dr.
No,
Conrad?
it's not that questions won't be answered, it's not right time. Just be clear, like, we got facts are facts.
Okay, this evening, I wanted to thank Dr. Avery and the Singer Scholarship, PV School Counselor Brian Morgan, and the interviewing team. Last week, we had our Pleasant Valley students that were awarded $30,000 scholarships. This is incredible. We're so proud of these students. They did a tremendous job. Not only applying for the scholarships, but obviously, defending it with Dr. Avery and the committee. This is great news for our students, and congratulations to Brianna Palmieri, to Lillian Earhart, to Anaya Ackling, and Zachary Prater. So we're so proud of them, and we're looking forward to next year's group of individuals who will be recipients of Singer Scholarships. So thanks to the administration team, and again, big shout out to Mr. Morgan for working with Dr. Avery and Singer Scholarship to bring it back to PV. So we're very proud, and let's go Bears. That's it.
That's it? Okay. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Would you like a break, or just want to continue on? Here we go. Keep going, okay. Have a good evening.
See you.
All right, we're going to begin our working session agenda, and we tried something new last meeting, and we will try it again. So I'm going to ask if there's any questions from the community at this time on the agenda items.
We want to do it per section.
Then we'll ask after we do that, okay?
Okay.
Just so that we know if there are questions.
Okay.
Hi, Denise from Chestnut Hill Township. So I didn't get to write these questions in, but sometimes it's just not read how it's typed. So 8A for the working session. When will you be discussing the whole budget with public?
Did you say, I'm sorry, 8, that's what I thought you said. That's travel policies.
Isn't this a working session?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Travel policies.
policy.
Okay, I thought you said budget. I thought you, sorry, said budget.
Sorry if I did, but no.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, for clarification, are you asking about the budget, because that's what you had asked about, or are you asking for a policy? I just want to.
Oh, sorry. Backing it up. Well, no, it has to do with that, the travel expenses. Because this is something, a new policy
Okay.
you're putting in? Is this a new policy you're putting in?
No.
It's been there for years.
Okay, so, yes, it does have to do with the policy, this isn't on or whatever. Not green. Anyway, so yeah, it does have to do with it, if you're changing the policy?
No,
No.
no, we're just gonna discuss it.
Oh, you're discussing. Okay, so is this included in the budget, the money?
Yes,
Okay.
But these are policies.
these are policies.
It's not budget. This topic has nothing to do with budget. I asked to have this put on, it has nothing to do with budget.
Maybe you could
But
wait.
isn't it with
So,
staff?
Mrs.
Being
Hopley-
This has
for
not-
travel?
I wanted to be informed about the policies, so I asked the board to have it be put on the agenda to talk about the policies for if and when someone were to. Not about what is or is not budgeted.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Mrs. Hopley, what we're going to do, and maybe this will help, after each section, like section 1, section 2, I'm going to ask the community if they have any comments. So maybe you ought to hold that,
Hold off on that one.
off on that one until we get to that, so you hear what the discussion is.
For that, okay.
I know you weren't here last meeting at the working
Not at
session
that
when we
one,
tried
but
this
this.
new part.
I know about that session. Okay, so because AC's not permanent yet either. Yeah, okay, I'll wait till I get to that about that.
Okay, very good. All right. Anyone else? Okay.
I think we should clarify that, anyone else for section 1.
Well, no. We're gonna, it's for the whole agenda at this
Okay,
point.
we should be putting 1, finance, but before it goes number 2, there should be a thing in there,
If we-
community statements.
We're gonna do that.
So,
Yeah, I would.
Janet Dooner from Polk Township. This is for the working session agenda item.
Mhm.
Just, I did read very quickly today, and this is partially my error in not printing it. For the 905 AR Citizens Advisory Committee, there was some rewritings, and it still seems that it's more a board-driven suggestion for items. And I just want to ask again that we open the thought that the citizens who are participating in this committee, that they can bring items to the board for this committee's discussion, please, just to make sure that we're making sure. And I'm saying this now loudly too, to hopefully that people will know that this policy has been approved and that they will use the Google form to join. Hopefully we can get more participation from the citizens of our community. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Can we do an audible to the agenda to allow Ken to go first instead of last?
Mr. Krasinski, you don't want Mr. Krasinski to sit here all night? We
I
did.
did ask him 2 days ago if I asked the exact same thing. I said, "Do you want to be put up?" And he said, "We could just keep it where it's at."
Okay.
I tried.
I did do that.
We tried to adjust it a little bit.
We did do that one other meeting, so,
we did.
all right. We're, finance.
Good evening, everybody. The first thing I'm gonna go over are our capital reserve and our bond fund balances at February 28th. Our cap reserve account has an available balance of $15,912,595.
That's not it, Chuck. He's on.
It's the first one, Chuck. Actually, you don't, it's not one and sent.
Oh, okay.
It's on the agenda, yeah.
This one?
Yep.
So this is the cap reserve account, and again, I'll just repeat, it has an available balance of $15,912,519.45 on February 28th. The 2018 bond account has an available balance of $0. The 2023 bond account has an available balance of $0. And the 2024 bond account has an available balance of $0.
Can we just take a pause? Can we line up where you're seeing this to compare to where we're seeing this right now? I just want to make sure, I just wanted
Well,
to,
this was the first one, she said. The cap reserve.
There's a lot of information on there.
This is accessible on the website too, correct?
Where did she
oh, I
say?
see, got it, thank you. Understand, thank you.
Okay.
I was just trying to,
So each account, all 4 of these accounts have accrued interest from January when I did the last presentation to February. For the bond accounts, that interest was rolled into the construction costs, which will lower the amount of the final bond issuance when we discuss that later on in the meeting. Does anybody have any questions on the balances for those accounts?
Can't hear it. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Do you have any questions on that?
Well,
well, it's not their question, it's our question.
It's our question.
The next item I have is the EPTEP report, and this one's for January 31st, 2025. Pheasant Valley EPTEP reserve balance was $4,969.69. This is equivalent to 5.5 months of reserve. We are required to maintain 4 months of reserve, so we're in a good position at this time. Anybody have any questions on that? Item C are our food service numbers for February. February breakfast meals for 18,746. Lunch meals were 43,374. After school snacks were 10,771. And our à la carte sales were 23,654.25. Item D is the monthly Woodson's newsletter. That's also in public view, so you can review that. Does anybody have any questions on the food service part? It was actually the board.
Is the microphone on? Because it is soft.
Take one.
Okay.
Okay, so then my next item, I'm gonna review bond scenario suggestions that we've got from, Raymond James. This is for the final piece of the bonding for our construction project at the high school. This is the first part. So to start off with, I just wanted to review the entire project. The construction costs, which includes our general contractor, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing, and environmental, $72,571,194. Professional fees, $7.5 million. Miscellaneous, $2.8, and our contingency of $4.7 million, which came to a total project cost of $87,683,316. At February 28th, we have $9,904 allocated to the project. Out of our 2018 bond, we've allocated $2,898,245. Our 2023 bond, $15,742,992. And our 24 bond, $15,331,657. We've applied and received an improvement grant for $1 million towards this project. Applied for and received the environmental grant for $264,987. So that leaves an amount left for this project of $42,541,335 that we need to do a bond for. There are some potential grants that are written into the governor's budget. They're written in there, they're gonna be improvement grants. We will not know if those grants are approved or not until the governor's budget is passed. And we don't have any guidelines yet on how you qualify for those. That will all come after the governor's budget is passed. So in talking to Raymond James, we came up with two different scenarios. So option one is to fund an additional $50 million, that would be over 20 years. It would be funded a Series 2025 bond in the amount of $40 million, that would yield 3.97%. And then in a series of 2026 bonds for $10 million, and we would do that in June of 2026. It's projected that would yield 4.25%. That's just a guess.
Yes.
This would be fully funded at the end of the 25-26 school year in the budget, pending the ability to maintain the current schedule for 25-26. And as you'll see in the budget presentation following, there's a lot of unknowns in our budget at this time. Potential use of additional funds for other district renovations, and the bond payments would end in 2046. Option two is to fund an additional $40 million, also over 20 years. This would be the Series 2025 bond, which would be funded on June 1st, and that would yield 3.97%. We would be fully funded at the end of the 24-25 school year for this, pending our ability to maintain our current schedule for 24-25. Bond payments would end in 2046. We would say we could, so if you go back to, if you remember from the first slide, the rest of this project is $42 million. This scenario is showing $40 million. We could save the funds in the cap reserve account for the other $2.5 million. We'll continue to earn interest on the other bonds, and that would make up that $2.5 million over time. And the contingency funds for $4.7 million, that's contingency. That doesn't mean we're going to need that for this project. It was built into the budget as a safety. So we may never touch that money, so then we wouldn't need it. So these are the two options that I discussed with Raymond James. the business office, and my recommendation is to go with option 2. It limits the amount that we are borrowing. We should be fully funded at the end of the 24-25 school year, so we wouldn't have to put any additional increases in the budget going forward to make those bond payments. The additional budget amount in the contingency, we may not need that. Save additional funds, we can save additional funds in the cap reserve to make up for the $2.5 million that we still need for the project. The economy is still in a good place at this time to fund the 40 million, to borrow the 40 million. And I do say that at this time, it's a good place for it. PD can continue to invest the 23 and the 24 bonds without any IRS ramifications. And until we would fund this 40 million, we could pay any of the bills to the general contractor out of our general fund. And then when the 40 million is funded, we could repay back the general fund and continue to invest the 23, 24 and earn interest on it. And we can use the general fund money to pay any of those fees from now until that 40 million would be funded. The 40 million would carry the construction costs through April of 2026. So we could go from now until April of 2026, investing and reinvesting the 23 and the 24 funds, as long as the market is suitable for it. Allie from Raymond James, I'm giving you this information now so that you have some time to sit with it. Think about it, read over the information. Allie from Raymond James is going to come in April. She's going to give you the more specific interest rates at that time, because they're changing every day. And then our goal would be to fund this in June, on June 1st. That would be our goal, to fund it.
So it would be try to get on the agenda for May.
If you
Or
remember when a year and a half ago, the board has already approved to borrow
Right.
up to 103 million, which we
And
were
this is
never
part of that.
going to do. We're not doing that.
Okay.
But at the time, that was the budget based on the market. So the board has already approved for us to borrow up to that. So official board approval for this other 40 million wouldn't necessarily be needed, but we would need the board's input on which direction to go in.
Okay.
Is there, I don't have my crystal ball. I wish I did. Are you and Ally okay waiting?
Until June?
Yeah.
Yes, and I was at the Pasco conference for the last 2 days,
Right.
Came back this afternoon, and I can tell you that 2 of the sessions that I went to, they're predicting that it's going to be okay for the rest of this year.
Okay.
2026, not so much.
Okay.
And to the bond right now, it's the interest rates for us to get the bond is very good for us right now. And it's gonna remain that way for the next few months.
Are there any grants, what is potential value of some of the grants that we're waiting on the governor's budget for? Is there anything more significant than the environmental or the other grant for $1 million?
The next one is another improvement grant.
Another improvement?
And the improvement grant from the last budget with the governor was $1 million max, and we did get that. So there has been some talk about giving priority to the districts, townships, and counties that did not receive it the first time.
Okay.
But
That makes sense.
that is all up in the air until the governor's budget passes.
I think we're in a very favorable position right now. I like what you told us about where we stand and based on what I know, I can't predict the future, but everything from my perspective looks favorable for us to go for the lesser amount, although we'll be watching it here over the next several months to see what's happening, particularly with some of the uncertainty which is happening in Washington DC right now. So, but I feel by the time we get it April or May, that's going to probably settle down, because if they haven't settled the federal budget by that time, we're gonna be in some serious hurt. So I think we're heading in the right direction.
I'd piggyback on that and say the contingency money, I mean, depending on what happens in Washington, I'm already seeing on a personal level at work. Last couple of projects eaten into that because of the increase in tariffs and the equipment. I don't know if equipment was set at a certain price, or if we potentially might have some increases there, but I wouldn't count on having that contingency, the entire thing available. I could see that eating into it a little bit, some of the decisions.
We basically got firm fixed price on the contracts we have in place. And the reason why we want to get the contracting done when we did was so that our contractors and the vendors they deal with could settle on the price at which they're going to get the new equipment that we're going to need for the equipment. So the burden sort of falls on them unless we make changes to the contract. And I guarantee you, I'm gonna be a tough one to deal with on contract changes.
And I can tell you that the GC has been ordering some of the materials already. We got our first payout today.
Oh.
And it's for materials. They're already ordering the materials to avoid the increase in prices, lagging delivery time, and any potential tariffs.
Yeah. You'd be surprised what comes from overseas. Anything as small as a VFD and could get really expensive, all the way to stainless steel.
So the contractors are being proactive.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so next working session, we'll, okay.
Working session, and she'll walk the board through all the steps and the dates and the deadlines that we'll have to meet for the January 1st bond issuance.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Everybody's, I'm thinking we're okay with option 2.
Yeah, I'm okay with
Yeah.
option 2.
Yeah, okay.
My last item tonight is, and I'm going to stress this, a very preliminary look at the budget. So for the 25-26 preliminary budget, the things that I'm going to review are going to be the budget process status, budget assumptions that were made to create this, our revenue and expenditure summary, our tax impact scenarios, fund balance review, and what the next steps are going to be to finalize the budget. So the process and the status. The Act 1 index, that's been taken care of. The board voted on that back in January for us not to exceed the state minimum of 5.5%. An early budget review is projecting a balanced budget. At this time, the professional staff collective bargaining agreement is still in negotiation phase. That is 35% of our budget, so that's moving along wonderfully. But at this point, we're not at the economical point to put those numbers in stone just yet. Administrative review, historical spending. We're reviewing district-wide staffing positions for maximum efficiency, programming needs, and any fiscal responsibility. And we're continuing to address and throughout the district, which we just got done reviewing in our other buildings. The next one are the budget assumptions that were made when preparing this preliminary budget. We're going to maintain all of our programs. We're going to continue to provide student classroom supplies for all of our students, after-school tutoring or LRO program, however that works out, and our after-school transportation for our students, supplemental contract obligation increases, funding for any additional staff when the final recommendation is determined, minimal increase in state funding. At this time, our basic ed funding preliminary numbers, 0.6% increase, $162,000. Just to give you something to reference that with, that doesn't cover one of our veteran teachers' salary and benefits. Our special ed is a 1.6% increase, which is equivalent to $79,000. And we do about 0% increase in the tax equity, and we don't qualify for the adequacy part portion of the formula, so we don't get any monies for that. Tax revenue is currently below the state allowable maximum of 5.5, and you'll see that in a couple of slides. Again, the contractual salaries and benefits obligation increase. The professional contract is still under negotiation, so these are estimated numbers in the budget. Transportation contractual increases, and funding increase for capital projects, the high school renovation project and district-wide rep repairs that we manage. Okay, so this slide shows the tax impact scenarios. I did 4 different scenarios, the first 3. You can reference those. There's no intention of us going to any of those 3, it's just for reference to show comparison. This very preliminary budget was done based off of the 2%. The net average assessment of a home, $143,138. This number is provided by the county when they send us the assessments in November. They send us an assessment report for each township. It shows the number of properties, how much each property is assessed for that for, and they give us the number to use for the assessment. The millage, if we went to 2%, the millage would be 0.02588. That is a 0.0005 increase from 24-25. So the net tax would be $3,709 on the property that's assessed at $143,138. This is an increase from 24-25 of $78 annually, and then that would equate to a $7 increase monthly for the 2%. And that's what this very preliminary budget is based off of, a 2% tax increase.
That's what's included.
Correct.
Okay. Tammy, can I ask, I guess 2 questions? I don't know if now's the right time, but so I can't remember what month the gaming revenue is certified at. What month is it
May
certified?
1st, they have to provide it to us.
So it's May 1st. Why did I think it was in September? And would it be possible to get like what that has been for the past couple of years?
Yes,
That's
I do know that. I can give that to you.
Oh, okay.
In 21-22, it was $4 million.
Oh, you don't know what it is per tax bill. Okay.
So that would be, there's a lot of things that go into that. The homestead, farmstead.
Right,
we
yeah,
filled out the
that's-
application, that goes into that.
Okay.
I forget, I think we had over 790 taxpayers that benefited last year.
Oh, so it depends on how many are. Yeah, okay.
And we do a resolution with
Right.
the budget.
Right.
That gives the exact number of taxpayers that the homestead, farmstead benefits.
Okay.
That number is right in there for every year.
Okay.
So if you want that, I don't know that off the top of my
Okay.
head.
I guess where I was going is, I think it was kind of stagnant for a number of years, but yet last year it went up, because I know we had an increase.
Yeah, it's
My tax bill went down.
23 and 23-24, the property tax relief money, also known as the gambling
Money, that's how I call it, yeah.
that it went up to 5.1 million from the 4 million, but it stayed that way.
Okay,
To the exact dollar amount, it stayed that way. In 24-25, it did increase to 6.2 million.
oh, okay, all right.
I have not heard anything about any projections, if it's gonna go up for 25-26, go down, remain the same. I've heard nothing
Okay.
at this point.
But we will know by May 1st.
May 1st, they're required to send an email to me certifying what our amount is.
Okay.
Y'all better go to the casino.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So for reference, I put the actual expenses from the last 2 years, 22-23 and 23-24, so that there's a bit of a comparison of what we actually spent to the budget. 24-25 budget is up there as well for reference, which we ended up at $111 million. So for 25-26, again, very preliminary budget, the total revenue, $116 million. This is comprised of local of $61 million, and if you compare that to 23-24, It's close to what we actually collected. The state is 52,718,952. Again, very comparable to the actual in 23-24. And then federal, the budgeted amount, 1.5 million. When you compare that to 23-24, there's a $4 million difference. We had ESSER money in 23-24. That is no longer. We won't be receiving that anymore. So that comprises the revenue of 116,186,231. For the expenses, instruction with 64,425,996. Support services, 40,906,903. Non-instructional and operations, 1,566,378. And other and financing, 9,286,953. For a total of budgeted expenditures of 116,186,230.
So, go ahead. Okay, so the other and the financing, that 9 million, that would include the
$40 million bond.
the new one, okay. Just wanted to make sure.
That would include all of our payments, 2018, 2023, 2024, and 2025.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And then there's in that one, we also have the contingency, and there's some money in there to transfer over to cap reserve as well.
Right.
For the other district projects.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions on this slide? With the revenue and expenditures?
I know it's a little early, but I guess we're keeping an eye on what they're doing at the federal level. I know the latest I've heard, they intend to take that money and push it down to the states, but is it gonna be the same amount of money when it gets through the House and the Senate? That'll be my only angst, if I could say that.
From what I've understood in Pasco, and they reviewed this quite a bit over the last 2 days have been very educational with all of us.
I personally think my gut feeling says it's too late to do a whole lot of changes
Correct.
to it right now. And until right now, that number looks good, but until it reaches the president's desk, I'm always a little uneasy.
The thought process right now is that it's not, anything that's happening on the federal level is not going to affect the state level before 25-26. Moving forward, their thought process is that when that gets pushed down, those funds are gonna run through the formula.
Yeah. That's not good for us.
It is not good.
Not good for us.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm gonna review our fund balance with the projection for 25-26 will look like. We would have non-spendable, which is 63,149. These are monies that are dedicated to things specific. In the previous years, it was for prepaid diesel that we hadn't used in the current year, and Advocacy Alliance is the current one. Our committed fund balance, 17,821,296. The assigned portion of the fund balance, 8,666,717. And then unassigned, 4,786,523. So for our general fund balance, it would be 31,337,685. We have a fund balance restricted in capital projects of 56 million, and we also have restricted debt balance of 4.6 million. Those two items are 60 million for a total fund balance of 92,005,648. I know that sounds wonderful. The 56 million, that's the portion that's dedicated to the high school renovation project. You're gonna see that drop quickly over the next 3 years. That portion will drop. I did include the 40 million and then the drop that will happen in 25-26. Because there's a drawdown schedule. So the 40 million goes in, but we have drawdown schedule for next year, so I took all that money out of there. So that would be our fund balance. The next steps Continue to do building and department review, continue to do staffing review, administration and board review of any of the areas, identify areas of budget adjustments, whether it's revenue or expenditures, monitor the governor's budget recommendations. Hopefully the governor's budget passes by the end before June 1st. If not, we'll just have to go off of the estimated numbers. Finalize the collective bargaining agreement with the professional staff. And the proposed budget adoption, I'm hoping to have for May 8th, 2025. The PDE deadline is May 31st. And the final adoption of the budget on June 19th. PDE's deadline is June 30th.
Tammy, do you have any idea those federal dollars, if they run them through the new formula, how that would affect us?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
I can tell you because of the way that when Pleasant Valley's enrollment went up to 7,000 students, it ran through the formula, which increased the state funding, the basic ed and the special ed funding increased it exponentially. But since that time, Pleasant Valley's enrollment has gone down. And the reason enrollment went up is because everybody came here from New York and after 9/11.
Right.
Those students have since graduated. Those families have either moved back to New York, moved elsewhere, just didn't have any more children. So our enrollment has gone down, but you're held harmless.
Right.
So our state funding can't go any less.
Right.
But without enrollment going up, no matter how you run that money, what
I
goes
know.
through that formula, it's still going to be a minimal increase for us.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
It's gonna hurt us if they do it that way. Absolutely. I'm just wondering what that amount could be. That's gonna hurt us. That's what I'm wondering.
So
Okay.
our federal funds now that we get federally are the titles, IDEA, I'm probably missing one. They're the funds that
Right.
are federally funded right now.
Okay.
I'm not sure that the federal dollars follow the same
Funding form?
funding formula that state dollars do. But
They do not.
I will check on that, and you might do that as well.
Yeah, it does not, Mr.
Yeah, and as far as my understanding is, it does not.
No, but if they push the federal funds
Fund
down
down to the state, that's what she said.
Yes, then the state.
Then it's gonna hurt
And then
us.
if the state requires us to do those functions and they provide funding for it, then it'll be at whatever the new formulation is.
Which
But-
hurts us.
But if they don't provide it, then we're still stuck as long as we have the regulations to do the work. So that's gonna be a hole we need to figure out how to fill.
Right.
A lot will come to light over the next year, I think.
But from your conference, everybody's thinking it's not gonna happen.
25, 26, it's not gonna happen for that year.
Okay.
The year that can be affected for the first time will be 26, 27. And there are still bills on the floor from the governor to redo the funding formula. You know, that every year they put it on there and it gets a little bit closer to passing every year. And if that would pass, then we would benefit from that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Is that everything, Tammy?
That's all I have for this evening.
Okay, that's section 1. Is there any public comment on section 1 only? Okay. I'm fine with you there, saying that.
Okay, I'm just wondering, are we, as a public community, going to be able to get some kind of inclusive whole picture of this budget before it comes out? I mean, as it comes out, when you get it out?
There's a
Are we
document.
going to be able to see it with all the numbers and all the, everything plugged in?
So when the proposed budget is presented in May, that is put out in the front office and online for 30 days for public inspection. And it's called the PDE 2028, and it goes into way more detail than what you saw tonight.
Janet?
Ms. Tammy, what bill specifically could people look up, doing a search on the page for the state? Is there specific numbered bills, or do you just recommend doing a general search on the state?
I have the bill number, but I do not know it off the top of my head. I'll email it to you.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, moving on to section 2, education and curriculum, middle school furniture. Who's doing that one?
This is Mr. Eric.
Oh, okay.
I must say, it's.
Yeah.
Good evening. So I just wanted to kind of come here and present kind of what we've been looking at for new furniture at the middle school here. If you go to the next slide, please. So the purpose here, we really wanted to look at optimizing the learning environment here. And so with purchasing new furniture, we're going to create that engaging, collaborative, and comfortable learning spaces with flexible seating that's going to really focus on those students and hopefully impact that academic success. We also want to modernize the instructional support spaces so that we create those physical environments that support innovative teaching for our students. So with that purpose said, we looked at the justification. We're going to utilize our Ready to Learn grant block funds to enhance our student learning space. What's really unique about this is it was reviewed by Dewey under their improvements for the district on priority list number 5. Next slide, please. So the request here was reaching out to 4 different vendors. We asked them to supply 2 to 3 different styles of student desks, chairs, teacher desks, podiums, and some seating arrangements there. And if you take a look at the timeline there, they all delivered some type of display from January 27th to the 31st. Then during that time frame of February 3rd to the 14th there, the display was in 2 classrooms at the middle school where teachers could use their time to look at them and see what they like. There was a survey there that was also presented, and we collected feedback in the sense of kind of what vendor did they kind of like some of the styles, the flexible seating, did they like the desks shaped, and so on and so forth. Then on March 4th, we looked at a specific company for Premier Environment, because that was kind of the avenue that we were looking to go with, which was also kind of connected with Dewey and their suggestion with the high school capital improvement project. So we took down a few teachers there to look at their flux space, which is a really enhanced area that shows the uniqueness of the tables, the flexible seating, along with new designs of a STEM classroom, similar to what we're going to be putting at the high school. Next slide, please. So what's on the horizon here? So we are requesting that the Premier Environments provide us 2 quotes so that we can utilize the Ready to Learn block grant, obviously before the end of the year when we need to. The first quote here, we're looking at some high quality furniture that will use a good amount of the funds. The second quote there is going to be a moderate quality, and obviously that's going to utilize a little bit less. But because of this, we're looking for the white glove service. So we want to make sure that there is a seamless, comprehensive delivery and set of experience that's not putting a burden on our district. Our future then, utilizing the Ready to Learn block grant in the subsequent years here, is to then look at redoing the furniture at PDE and then the following year PDI. So we're requested from Premier those quotes March, I think it was Monday, it's coming Monday the 17th. So we're hoping to have those so that you can kind of take a look at those for the next board meeting.
So did you take the surveys that from when the teachers came in and looked at the furniture, and then you shared that with Premier?
Mm-hmm.
And then
no, we kind of like looked at it and analyzed it. What were they looking for? Were they looking for tables? Were they looking for collaborative tables? Were they looking for standard square desks? Were they looking for flexible desks that shape? So we kind of then, based on that data, we told Premier
That's
this
what I
is what they were looking for.
Okay.
When you say flexible desk, do you mean like you can sit or stand? Or do you mean like it's a free-form shape?
Yes, freeform and square, depending on what they're going to come up with. Obviously, the ones that are a little more flexible shape, they connect. You could put 4 in a group, you could put 5 in a group, you could regroup, you can do collaborative grouping with that. Those are gonna cost a little bit more, so we're kind of looking at some of these quotes, what they can offer us.
And you said the quotes are due back on the 17th.
Yes, that's, we need a quick turnaround to make sure that we can use
get
the
it.
funds, because we have to have them received by June 30th.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Any questions?
What about when we have to do standardized testing, when you have to be in a rows and how's that?
They can still be adjusted, so it's gonna be up to the teacher of how they want to use those desks. So there were a couple requests from the teachers, they like the standard rows, but we are looking to put a collaborative circle ability in there by able to connect those when those teachers want to do those.
John, if I can add,
Sure.
one of the style of desks that we saw is kind of like shaped like a trapezoid, so that the students can sit individually in rows for standardized testing, but if you want to move into small group instruction for kids that need a little more attention, what you can do with those desks is then turn them into like a half circle, and the teacher can sit with them for the instruction. So that option offers both traditional and something else.
So with the company that you're looking to go with, I know we're getting quotes from them, but have we had that conversation going out with the grant? There's the June 30th deadline, and they'd be able to facilitate that?
Yes, yep.
And the options that we're looking for, it's, you can do whatever you want in that classroom. We're not ordering what teacher A, B, or C wants.
Correct, we're looking for.
Okay, I want to be sure this is not we get to pick what we want.
No, we're looking for the uniform across. There is gonna be some variations in certain classes,
Content.
you know.
Based on-
Yeah, because of
Correct.
content area science.
Science,
Yes.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah, for example, like the.
I just didn't hope there was, here's a catalog. pick what you
No,
want.
that was one thing that we wanted to make sure, yes. 'Cause
I'm sure that
would
was
be
asked.
everyone would
I'm
be-
sure people wanted it too. No, but then we got good feedback on it, so that's positive.
Anyone else?
And 100% paid for through that grant.
Okay,
Thank you.
Keystone Testing? Go, yep.
Right, what?
Want to do just an update?
Did you want to go?
I'm sorry,
You're already up. We'll just jump around. Yeah.
did I miss something?
Okay, wonderful.
It's all right.
Okay.
So, I'm here
They must
tonight
have told us
representing
something.
CDHS all by my lonesome. But I'm very happy to be here. We've been working on, sort of an action plan that we're looking to put into motion. We're gonna start working on some of these things at the end of this year as we head into the Keystone season. We've got, spring Keystones in May, but then we really want to make sure that it is fully enacted for, the beginning of next school year for 25-26. So whenever we think about putting together an action plan, we always want to think about our why. And we want to focus on the fact that our school district is committed above all to our students. And we want to make sure that we are always increasing our graduation rate. Based on the data from last year, our graduation rate is around 90%. So in addition to that, we want to make sure that those graduates that we're churning out are going to be given the credit that they deserve. So we want to make sure that those diplomas represent very rigorous standards of accomplishment. When we think about the diversity of our students and their needs and all of those students being able to reach their maximum potential, we want to make sure that we're always supporting our students in that endeavor. And last, and in my opinion, the least on this list, is that we always want to make sure that we're complying with state and federal mandates. And what we're talking about is something called Act 158. So Act 158, which went into full implementation with the class of 2023, this is basically coming from
So just historically, we were at No Child Left Behind at a federal level, and then that was replaced with the Every Student Succeeds Act. So in addition to the regular graduation requirements, they said, how can we meet every student's need? How can we be flexible and still hold our students for a lot of accountability? So with Act 158, they really are focusing on making sure that all students are demonstrating post-secondary preparedness. The focus here and the focus of the presentation I'm about to give is going to be talking about the Keystone exams, which is their main measure of academic achievement that is standardized across the state. And then also one of the things that ESSA focused on was allowing for this idea that there are alternative pathways to graduation where we're still able to show educational excellence for all students. So Keystone exams are central to this because there are 5 pathways that Act 158 is willing to accept. Of those 5 pathways, 2 of them are focused on Keystones. They are the primary source of evidence in order to determine those graduation pathways. So when we talk about Keystone exams, just to make sure everyone's understanding, these are end of course exams. So whereas like a PSSA is taken over 3 years of content that the student then takes in a future grade, these are going to occur right at the end of the course. So usually within a few weeks of when they would be taking the final exam. Typically, most students will take the Algebra 1 exam in 9th grade. There are always exceptions. We have some who take it in 8th grade, and we have some who take it later in 10th or 11th grade. Also, typically 9th grade biology, and then for the Literature Keystone exam, we targeted the end of our sophomore year, so our English 10 course. I think it's really important to discuss the fact that these Keystone exams are focused on 9th and 10th grade in order to give students a sense of security and understanding where they stand on that graduation pathway as early as possible, and to allow school districts to address what do we do when students are struggling to meet those pathways. So again, just there you see the graphics are explaining the 2 different pathways. And the reason why there's 2 different pathways is pathway 1 is straight across, right? You are proficient at a 1500, which is the scale score that they use. You are proficient in each of the 3 exams. Pathway 2, a little bit of flexibility. And so as long as you meet these requirements, it has to do with a composite score. Maybe you were extremely proficient in one exam, but you just kind of missed it in another one, so you were not proficient. As long as you're not extremely non-proficient, which would be called below basic, and that you have these small criteria in place, they will consider this a pathway 2, where you're going to graduate with the Keystone composite score that's accepted for this. So we want to take a look at our data and see where Pleasant Valley is as far as, where we're going to make our goals, and then the action steps that are going to come with this. Right now, looking at the class of 2024, because that's the complete data I had to work with, we are looking at just under 70% of seniors who actually attempted all 3 Keystone exams. Now, these seniors took these courses because those courses are part of a graduation requirement that are set by our credits, but we're not seeing the same level of completion for the exams. Specifically, when we broke it down and looked at some subgroups, 2 subgroups really jumped out. 42% of our Bears Academy cyber students, so that means they had to be at least half or full-time, were attempting all 3 Keystones, and 51% of students that were identified with an IEP were able to attempt all 3 Keystones. So in total, we were looking at the senior class, and 79 students, about 22%, did not take any Keystone exams at all. So what is the take home? We need more support for our students. We need to be able to give them direction and hold them accountable in order to help them achieve this graduation pathway, so it's not something that's pressing on them that could potentially get in the way of them being able to graduate on time in the right way. A little bit of extra data for you. I looked at our graduation pathway breakdown, and this is coming from the graduation report that was completed between the high school administration team and upper administration as well.
352 seniors were expected to graduate. I think the actual graduating total is something around like 327, something like 327. Here we can see on the blue here, more than half of our seniors were able to graduate using Pathway 1 and Pathway 2. Okay, I think it was like around 53%. But then when we look at some of the other pathways that were available, these other students didn't go through the Keystone Composite or Keystone Proficiency pathway, and we have to take a look at why that is. So I broke down some more data points that I found interesting. I found 45 students were proficient on at least 1 or 2 exams, but never actually completed participation in all 3. So simply by not even participating, they could not be considered for those first 2 pathways, and then most likely graduated via another pathway. In addition to that, there were 69 students who did attempt all 3 Keystones, but they did not reach proficiency and therefore were not able to use Pathway 1 or Pathway 2. Yes?
I'm sorry.
That's
Do
okay.
you know out of the blue,
Mhm.
how many are pathway 1 and how many are pathway 2?
For the purpose of this presentation, I did not break it down, but we do have that data available if you want it.
Yeah, okay. Do you want us to send it? We can send it out. That's.
I'd like to.
Yeah, that'd be helpful, yeah.
No problem. Okay. So as we move forward, we kind of break this down into 2 goals. The first thing is that we need to increase Keystone participation. In order to increase Keystone participation, we're going to need the community to rally behind us on this. We're going to need to be able to communicate the expectations, to clearly explain what Keystone exams are, why they are so important to helping our students reach their graduation pathways, and we need to do this frequently and in a timely manner. So some examples, one of the reasons I'm presenting to you tonight is that we are planning by the end of the month to hold a parent info session for high school families and their students as well, both in person and online, in order to present this information and to present why it's so important to participate in Keystones. In addition to that, we realize that not every student is on the same pathway towards graduation, but we know that because of our state and federal mandate, and because of the fact that it's 2 of our 5 pathways, moving through Keystone Proficiency is our first step. We're always going to attempt and do our best to get those kids to pass the Keystones first. So we're going to work with individualized plans. We're going to think about all the different types of students. We're going to use scheduling meetings. Currently, I think our guidance department's working with our sophomores this week. And during those scheduling meetings, they're also pulling up their Keystone data just to review this and to say, hey, I know you're in this class, you're going to be taking this exam, or you already took this exam, we need to consider what our next steps are. We also want to think about the fact that some groups might have some barriers to participating. So we were brainstorming some ideas, and we were thinking specifically about our cyber students, right? They were one of those subgroups with a very low full participation rate. So we said we should offer transportation and lunch. We can remove that barrier, find a way to get them here so that they can take the Keystone exam in person. Also, we thought about some incentives, like a little breakfast treat or something to say, thank you for showing up. We're here to help you and you're helping yourself. So here's a little thing for you. To address full participation, meaning the students that take all 3 Keystone exams by the end of their junior year, we've been thinking about some ways to really emphasize the importance of these Keystone exams and participating. So full participation will be rewarded with an invitation for walking at graduation. In addition to that, starting in the class of 26, we will be making sure that grant money will be paid for the caps and gowns of the students who were able to participate fully.
Okay, I had a question on that last bullet, the second to last bullet point. You're saying invitation to walk at graduation as an underclassman prior to your senior year?
Nope, we're talking about in the senior year. So these graduation pathways are so important to students. We want to let them know that walking at graduation requires full participation. We are going to be making that a requirement. This is not applying to seniors this year.
that's a huge step because let me explain where this is focusing on is that let's say students didn't get the composite score and then they maybe didn't get into that 4-year college. What were you doing at that point? Because now that little black bar in that pie chart, now that's a student that's not going to graduate. And that actually impacts our numbers and which ones really increase our graduation and opportunities. We, as we all know, walking that graduation is a privilege. And frankly, there have been some people who have done some things that they don't have that privilege. So we kind of look at it as, okay, this is a privilege, this is a rite of passage. And we all know that it's more about that opportunity for your parents, frankly. And we this year alone, we actually allocated grant funds to pay for the capacity analysis. And so what we're saying through the presentation is that we must take it's the financial burden, but we also need parents and everyone in the community to stress the importance of taking the keystone because we want to make sure that students aren't up against the wall when they want to composite score and they go to MCGI and do the NAPI test. And then they get into the 4-year college because technically we can't graduate. And that's why I think it's so important starting with next year to try to support the days that are going to be in 9th grade. Let them know that at the end of basically every year for the majority of them that they're going to take a test. And then we'll sort of do some other ways to support the students if they're not graduating. Then out of the 20% on the slide, seniors that did not take any of the 3, the seniors that have already met the requirements prior to senior year, are they including that 20%?
Requirements for a different pathway.
For that specific pathway,
For a different pathway, they could for the Keystone pathway. So if they didn't participate in any of the Keystones, they would not be a part of that.
but there's slides that this was senior specific information. I'm wondering if they had already completed that requirement part of the 2-year elective pushing class. Oh, yeah, why would they be considered for that 20%? This is just specific for the class of 2024. So when we consolidated, there's an incredible spreadsheet that started a few years ago that actually has all of the seniors that seniors graduating class that we go over, and it identifies that from 9th grade, so we kept that track record for 4 years. And so every time, let's say, a student
obviously, once we get, as Ms. Zip said, their butts in the seats and we get them taking the test, we want to make sure that they're going to be proficient. And I'm not saying make sure they're going to be proficient, but we want to give them the confidence, we want to build them the skills and make sure that we have done everything we can to allow them to reach their maximum potential. So we break this up into sort of before testing and after testing. So before testing, these are some things we're already doing, just so you know. For example, most of our PD sessions this year, when we've had Act 80 time, we've been able to get together sometimes with the middle school as well to conduct a scope and sequence review to make sure that our courses are fully aligned to the Keystone standards. We're looking at the breakdown of the Keystone data that comes back to us, which tells our teachers, you know, what specific component of a module are our students struggling with the most. And then there were some really rich conversations about how could we rearrange things, how could we get 8th grade to support 9th grade. I know I was in the math discussion for that as well, so that we're making sure that the students feel fully supported and prepared by what their trigger courses give, and that just means the course of the test. We also want to make sure that we're utilizing data on a more regular basis. We're going to be using NWEA from now on. That kind of information is going to allow us to adapt and, you know, further align to Keystones and get instruction within the classroom more in line with what's needed for that. Other things like using released Keystone questions during class warm-ups. We want to make sure that we're testing the students at grade level and at test level as well to make sure that they're walking into a test and they've seen questions like this before. It's very familiar to them. And specifically, we're putting some focus on the Bears Academy as well. When we think about exam preparation, you know, they're working with teachers that are on the other side of the state. You know, they're not in classrooms with them. When we think about some of the exam preparation that our teachers take on themselves, what can we do for the Bears Academy students to make sure they have access to resources and things like that? So we're currently brainstorming ideas. After the testing, okay, we've taken the test and we didn't make it. So what is the next step? We're not just checking a box to say, okay, the participation rate is high, right? This is not just about us meeting that requirement. This is about caring about the students and their achievement. So we're going to really lean into those remediation courses. And it's written into the program of studies that any student that is non-proficient after taking a Keystone exam is eligible and expected to be scheduled for remediation. There are obviously some exceptions to this, like those who have scheduling conflicts where things can't be worked around. I'm thinking specifically of MCTI students, where, you know, we're going to do our best to get as many of those eligible students into those foundation courses as possible. The foundation courses scheduled are going to be taught by a teacher. They're not going to be on a computer. I always think that's very important. I think they originally were, but we have a live instruction teacher. We have differentiation. We have, you know, data-informed lessons that are personalized and things like that. Because the idea is you didn't pass it the first time with, you know, an all-class instruction. So now we need to be more specific and we need to be more supportive. In addition to that, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive also with the retesting schedule. One of the things is if you've got Algebra 1 in your head from 9th grade, we should not wait until the end of your junior year to test you again on Algebra 1. We're going to strike while the iron is hot. We're going to utilize more of that winter testing session, which is in between when our regular students test. So like our retesters will be targeted for that. That way it's only been one semester since they last took their exam. Some quick FAQs. You know, what if I don't take the Keystones? Well, you're going to be rescheduled every semester that we have a testing session. We're really making sure that kids aren't going to slip through the cracks. We're going to inform them about graduation ceremony privileges and how important that is to themselves, to their parents, to their community. And also, you really are not accessing those other 3 pathways until you've made attempts at Keystone participation and proficiency. And we're taking that one step further at Pleasant Valley, and we're not the only district that's doing this in the area as well. We're saying it's not enough just to participate and move on. You're going to participate, and then we're going to further support you if you haven't reached proficiency. So one of the things we're gonna help students comply with this, making sure that they are fully informed. They get personalized letters sent home to notify them of their Keystone schedule. On the day of testing, daily announcements are going out. There are teachers that walk around the hallway with a list that are going into classrooms. Hey, you didn't report to Keystone testing, you're supposed to be down there. We're going to be doing as much as we can also then to make phone calls home and notify parents. And we have multiple days scheduled for makeups. Another FAQ, there's been a lot of talk about exemption. Exemption isn't really a thing. You've heard the word opt-out from Dr. Conrad, and I'll talk about that in a second. But just because I'm a MCTI student, cyber student, dual enrollment, I'm doing co-op, I have an IEP or a 504 plan. On that basis, does that mean that I'm automatically exempt? The answer is that is not applicable. The one caveat to that is students with IEPs, obviously, those are legally binding documents, and if within their testing section 4, the IEP team has made an assessment that the student is not required to take the Keystone exams, then that would be one exception to this, but I have yet to come across an IEP like that. So we talked a lot about pathway 1 and 2, but what about these other 3 pathways? Once we've gone through and we've attempted to reach proficiency, we've done as much as we can to support the student. Now we're at the end of junior year and we're kind of out of options. The student's done their best. Here's where the flexibility of Act 158 benefits our students. Instead of turning to them and saying, no Keystone proficiency means no graduation, they're saying, we understand that there are differences for students. We understand that there are different ways to demonstrate educational excellence and your graduation requirement. So just really quickly to summarize, pathway 3 is called the CTE concentrator pathway. That's mainly for career and technical education. So for example, an MCTI student puts in a bunch of hours through their program. They're going to take industry recognized certification exams, and they're going to get a recommendation from their MCTI instructor to say that they have a very strong likeliness of doing well in their field. They would be allowed to graduate via pathway 3. And again, there's evidence that they have to collect and be required for it. It's not just an automatic if you're MCTI. Pathway 4, some alternative assessments, so ways that you can show other than Keystone proficiency that you are able to achieve. So for example, here's where the mention of the 4-year acceptance letter and an SAT score, PSAT score, and they all have thresholds that have to be met for something like that as well. And then pathway 5 is really sort of the last pathway that we would consider. That's where we start pulling all sorts of little bits of evidence. Hey, how about, are you holding down a job right now? Can you get a recommendation letter from your employer? We have a couple of different courses the students can take if they're CPR certified. Just different ways to show that they have some artifacts that are acceptable from these criteria. With each derivation of the pathway, once you get down to pathway 5, more artifacts are needed to add together. Yep. So just in conclusion, what we're looking to do here is we're looking to increase that Keystone participation. We want to give kids that leg up and show them that we're really supporting them early on in their high school career in order to reach those graduation requirements. Increase participation, communicating the needs for this. You might get more buy-in from the parents, from the students, from our community members. We should be seeing Keystone proficiency increasing as well with that. All our teachers are going to be working with that as well, putting into place the remediation, not allowing students to be part of that percentage of you didn't take any of these Keystone exams. I'm going to be calling a lot of homes, I'll tell you that much. And ultimately that will lead to graduation pathway satisfaction as intended and our PB proud graduates, because 80% is good, but we can do better.
Is this discussed when you do scheduling meetings?
Yes, that was sort of one of the things that prodded this at this time of year. One, I'm setting up for spring Keystones, but also this is the time when students are taking a course request, and it's a great time to have that one-on-one with their guidance counselor.
I know there's bio and algebra and trigger courses. For literature, when do the students usually take that? What grade level?
So that would be at the end of their English 10, so end of sophomore year is when they take that. The literature exam focuses on fiction, nonfiction, whereas English 9 still has a lot of grammar and other things like that.
And if you complete 3, 4, or 5 pathways, you still get that invitation to graduate.
You still get an invitation to graduate, yes. You've met the requirements of the.
It just seemed like in the other slide was just 1 and 2, that's why it was confusing.
That
Yes.
was my initial
Because
concern.
it did make
That was
sense.
my initial concern when I first said, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no, all 5 pathways are
Okay.
acceptable in order to award the diploma with all the other graduation requirements, right? This is just separate from that.
Just for clarity, what they're asking is people in pathway 3, 4, and 5, are they allowed to walk at graduation?
So that was, I didn't understand that.
Yeah,
I
that's,
thought
that's-
they
that-
were-
that was the
the
question.
reward, what you get to walk.
So the reward is for Keystone participation. So as long as they have participated in the Keystones, if they're not successful, but they've tried all of them and then use an alternative pathway in order to graduate, they are invited to walk.
Right, so sometimes we get students that are at MCTI that are saying, hey, I'm just gonna take the plumbing NOCD and I'll be fine. This is to encourage them to still take the Keystone exams, because, frankly, again, I know that they do a great job at MCTI and high NOCD scores, but what if an individual doesn't get that recommendation, doesn't meet that certification criteria? We wanna make sure that we get ahead of that in advance, so.
So 3, 4, and 5 will still walk.
3, 4, and 5.
Will walk so long as they,
But that makes absolutely no sense.
no, hold on. 3, 4, and 5 will walk as long as they've taken the Keystone exams, which they should have hopefully a chance to graduate through pathway 1 and 2. So essentially setting the bar that every single student that walks at graduation must take the Keystone exams.
So why
That
can't we
is-
make that a requirement?
I'm sorry, was that?
Why can't it be a
No,
requirement?
it is. That's what we're saying here. So that's what we're proposing is that in order to walk at graduation.
We're looking to make this a requirement within our district.
Correct, yes.
My support on it. Absolutely not. Our students bust their butts to go to MCTI to be whatever it is, category 3. I know it involves the knocking and everything, and I'm seeing a slide up there that you're gonna make them take the Keystone now and hold them back at school for a day now if they don't. And then what, if they don't pass it, now they gotta take remedial courses and stuff, that's gonna take away
No,
from
they-
MCTI time?
They wouldn't take away for MCTI would be a little bit of different, mindset because
You
they
said you're
still,
trying to solve those, that everybody across the board.
what I'm saying is that the students that are at MCTI ninth grade that are there the entire day, right? They're going to take their MCTI courses, they're gonna be, prepared for MCTI. When they're taking half their time courses at the high school, and then they're going up half-time for MCTI, that at the end of those courses in 10th grade, they would still take the Keystone for the ELA courses, for the math courses that they're currently taking in Pleasant Valley. That doesn't take away from the opportunities that they'll still have at MCTI. What we're ultimately trying to get at is that we have 22% of our students that can either help our graduation rates, but more importantly, help themselves by having a guaranteed pathway that they've met in order to graduate. And that's what we're really trying to focus heavily on, is the fact that they need to take the Keystone exams, because we're finding 79 of our 300 students, almost a significant amount, 22%, a quarter of them essentially aren't taking the exam whatsoever. And so this isn't to punish anyone. This is to say, in order to walk at graduation, we need you to take the Keystone exams.
So these 79 are part of pathway 1 and 2. So there's a lot of confusing stuff out there in this presentation.
Sure.
The 79 are out of what categories?
Can you go back to that slide?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, thank you. Pull it back up.
No. Yep, that one right there.
Yep.
So these students, I'm not sure if they actually graduated or did not graduate.
Yeah.
Okay, they were part of the senior class. Some of them may have been non-graduates. Some of them may have graduated through another pathway. But regardless, they did not take any Keystone exam. In order to get to your senior year, you have taken Algebra 1 as a course, you have taken Biology as a course, and you have taken English 10 as a course. There are very few exceptions to that. I'm thinking of like skilled students. But every other student is taking this course. They are scheduled to take the exam at the end of the course. They are expected to sit for that exam at the end of that course. So not participating in that exam is something that is getting in the way of that student from attending school that day when they are regularly scheduled to be there. And many students are choosing to skip on those days and to not show up for taking the exam.
If you take a look at the next slide, it indicates that from last year's graduating seniors, 20 of those students had actually the pathway for VOTEC Career Readiness Indicator, so the not the exams. There may be some that, we're taking the ASVAB for that other 19. So we're seeing that they're able to have the pathway, which again goes to the VOTEC and the NOCTI. But again, what we're trying to do is increase that participation rate and increase the likelihood that some students who otherwise might not graduate, not because of credits, because they didn't actually, fulfill the requirements of one of the pathways. One of the things that we'll do later, and I just made a note of it too, is to find out exactly what that number looks like for the number of students that were at MCTI and that exclusively with that 20, seeing if there were layers of individuals that passed on pathway 1 or pathway 2. So
I don't know, it sounds like a punishment to me.
Like what?
It sounds like a punishment. I'm just being transparent from what I'm looking at, what I'm hearing. It doesn't seem fair.
Which part? I'm just trying to.
Well, we're forcing a child to take a test. Like if you said, if they skip school, okay, well, that's on you. But if you didn't take the test, you get a 0 score, right?
Right,
So
right,
you still-
so the responsibility is on our district in order to meet the state and federal mandate. It's an accountability piece and it is tied to federal funds.
I
In order
understand,
to
but we should not
participate.
tie that to students graduate. If that's what they choose to do, you gotta be a better person, right? And this is about, if I wanna graduate, be successful in what I'm doing, if this is part of my pathway to get out of school, then that's what I have to do. I don't agree with this at all.
You'll never hit a true 100% of your senior class because not 100% of seniors are held to that because they're in tracks 3, 4, and 5. They don't need to. And what we're proposing here is we're making them.
If I can add something to that, the other thing is that, remember, when we look at the 5 pathways, the first 2 pathways are the focus for the first 3 years of high school. Those are the only pathways that we are considering at that time. All students are taking those courses, all students are focused on, at minimum, participating, but ideally being proficient on those exams. It's only when we've exhausted the opportunities over those 3 years that we then open up and look at pathways 3, 4, and 5, which are all acceptable pathways to graduation, provided that the student has participated first.
You got that caveat there.
A state and federal caveat, yes.
What do other, is this on par with what other districts do in Monroe County? Or is this atypical, what we're doing? Like what you're asking, like what do other districts in our area, do they have similar programs and requirements? Like, are they doing similar things, or are we being, going out on a limb here and trying something aggressive?
I think what's happening is, and Mr. Foley, just please chime in, but I think all of our districts are struggling with participation rates. And I think when we start, scaling back and looking at the data and how it correlates to opportunities and graduation rates, I think what we're seeing in districts is that there's missed opportunities. And frankly, the missed opportunities for students to be able to, fulfill the requirements of pathway 1 or 2, it's like if they don't even take the test, you don't even have a shot to even graduate through that pathway. So now having the opportunity of 5, you almost cut that in half. You have 3 other, pathways that you can ultimately utilize. What we're trying to do, and I think, again, I'm not sure about other districts, but, with the addition of the last 2 years, we've been adding the remediation courses. We've been, trying to be specific about the trigger courses and when students would take them. And we're trying to drum up, parental and student support for doing that. Similarly, as, students are taking in grades 3 through 8 PSSAs, right? We have a higher participation rate in PSSAs than we do in Keystones. But why is that? Probably because the parents are aware, they're on board, and then at some point, people say, hey, I just don't need to do that anymore. We're saying that that's a barrier to graduation for our students. And again, the intention truly isn't to punish anyone. The intention is to say, hey, listen, in the first few years of your high school career, let's see, with the courses you're taking, regardless if you're MCTI or a cyber student, we want you to see how you're performing. And then again, as there's some students with IEPs, there's other alternative pathways, but there's other opportunities as we get closer to that graduation deadline, that 4th year. And that's what we're really trying to impress upon our 7th and 8th grade. I mean, you have to think about the converse, right? So if Mr. Foley is going over to the PVM and saying, listen, you should take the Keystone exams, but you're not really required to, and there's nothing that's going to stop you from taking it, I can guarantee you in 4 years from now, those numbers are going to be at like 60%. We're at 60, barely scratching 70%. So we're going to be at 60. A couple more years, we'll be at 50%. But again, this is tied to federal funding. So yes, there's that aspect of it. But also, we could potentially be on an improvement plan through the state because we're not, as a district, doing what we should to encourage our students to take the exams. We do take advantage of the winter exams. We do take advantage of students taking it again in the spring. But again, I'm not sure if you've spoken to any other administrators or seeing what they're seeing from our level.
The only personal story I have is I just spoke to a guidance counselor from Stroudsburg because they were talking to me about an out-of-district student that we have in the IU program. Student is a senior and is in Algebra 1 at this point. And I said, do you want me to schedule this student for a Keystone exam or not? They're a senior. And the reply was, no, all students are required to participate in the exam and the student has yet to participate. So the student must sit for the exam.
So make this required.
So that was Stroudsburg.
And this just seems like, a lot to manage from a personnel standpoint. And it's like another headcount that he has to add to manage just this task.
I will tell you, I've seen that. I actually could pull it up. The tab is incredible with the number of seniors, the 352 pretty much every single year. And literally, and Mr. Ayer, actually, I think you were the one that started doing this because we needed to, when Act 158 came about, 2 years ago, we really needed to come up with a system for tracking. And you're absolutely right, because it was, how are we even going to manage this? How do we even know? So we had to cross-reference DRC reports, and then we had to make sure that the students, did they pass, or they took the exams on this date in 9th grade year, but only passed 2 of those Keystone exams. So from the counseling standpoint too, again, Mrs. Foley is right. Like there's a lot of counseling that's discussed as well to make sure that students are taking courses to help support their success in these particular pathways.
And just to add on to that, the state has unveiled a new tool that's available to us because of how important it is to track all of this information. We've introduced it to our guidance counselors in October. We asked them to take a second look at it again in February. And starting in April, we're uploading our current junior class, their data over the summer to see what it is like in this tracking program, how we're going to be able to use it. But it is specifically designed by PDE for helping us take all this data and figure out what pathways is the student working on, what evidence are they missing, have they made the participation requirement for the Keystones first, things like that.
Is the Keystone set up on the same day for all the schools of the district?
Yes, there's a Keystone window, so like in the spring, it's from May 12th to the 23rd, and then schools have the ability to report back to DRC what days they're going to be testing.
How does that currently work with MCTI students is my question. So the classes, since you have multiple schools going to the specific classes at MCTI, do those specific classes, can you explain that to me?
Sure. So all students are expected to participate in the Keystone exam at PBHS. This is one of the things that cyber students agreed to come into brick and mortar when they join the cyber program. Also, all students for MCTI, the MCTI instructors know that our half-day students are hours to test. The full-day students that take their core subjects up there, they do testing there.
But do they correlate, so our half-day students, are they missing out on valuable lessons up at MCTI if other schools are not doing Keystones on that same day?
No.
And are the other students that are, say, Strasburg, for example, if they
Oh, I
have,
see what you're saying. So
Okay.
like if we started our Keystone testing on May 12th, but another district that also attends MCTI
13th.
started on the 14th.
Yeah.
Instruction, as far as I know, continues on that day.
They'd have to.
The only courses I think that are impacted are the hour courses, you know. Can I ask this question too, and I really don't know this. So take Algebra 1, so let's say I'm a 9th grade student at PV, and I'm full-time PV. I take an Algebra 1 course, but since the Keystones are in May, do I take the Algebra course for Keystones, or I'm sorry, the test for the Keystone exam and take a final exam in that course?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Because the Keystone exam does not affect their course average or their course grade, but the final exam does. We don't get the Keystone scores back for another.
And I'm just throwing this out there, I mean, could there be discussion about maybe like a 10% bump for those that took the Keystone and then take the final exam as kind of incentive to say, hey, you know, we're acknowledging that you took the exam. There's probably similar questions on the Algebra and Keystones as there are in the final exam. I'm just saying, like, as a way to, you know, potentially like bump an opportunity and kind of put an incentive for encouraging students to take that Algebra 1 Keystone. You know, and similarly with other, you know, trigger classes, if you will, maybe that's something we could look into because, I mean, if I'm a student, I think that's kind of like double jeopardy, right? You have to take the Keystone exams and then the
AP
final.
kids don't have to take the final, right? They take the AP exam.
Well, we just made that change last year.
Right.
AP,
In a
they
similar
only take the AP exam because that was the problem. That was another test to study for.
Right.
So maybe in a
You don't get those
similar
scores back
fashion.
quick enough though, right?
I'm sorry, what's
You
that?
don't- If you take it in May, you don't get the best scores back until.
We won't get it back,
October.
and that's, yeah, you can't use it for an average, yeah,
okay.
unfortunately.
So when we have Keystone testing here at the district, the non-testers of our MCTI students, are they provided transportation on those days to go to MCTI?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just the testing students that are held back, and it really only affects AM MCTI students because we test our modules only in the morning. And we adjusted our window to make sure that we could get the testing done for our testing session by 10 o'clock
So
so
they
that
can still get
they
up there.
can catch the bus. That was a concern before we fixed that.
Can I get a statistical clarification real quick on the next slide or the previous slide? You know, that one right here. So if I take and go through option 1 or 2 prior to my senior year, right? My senior year, then I'm not going to take any of the Keystones because I've already met those requirements, correct?
Right.
In your scenario here, as a senior who've already met those requirements prior to my senior year, would I fall into that 22% category? Just clarify that for me, like, because I would be senior
No,
not
no.
taking any of those
Right,
tests.
we're saying those 22% kids went through PV from grade 9 through 12 over
And
4
never-
years and never
Never
sat
took.
for a Keystone exam.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Over that
Okay,
4 year.
I just needed clarity on that.
Sure, no problem.
So where are we at with this?
I would like to know what the other school districts are doing in the county. I would.
I'll follow up.
Especially at the walking graduation, like that's my.
Sure, yeah.
Also,
I understand we're trying to get the numbers out.
walking
I just wanna-
graduation, he wants to know if anybody else has.
Oh, okay, that's tied to that, okay.
Also, historical Pleasant Valley, have we ever taken any aggressive steps for this in our historical past?
Just to do with the Keystones?
Correct.
The Keystones have only been around for,
Well, the participation requirement and Act 158 only was fully
Yeah,
implemented with the graduating class of 2023.
23, so
Okay, thank you. So
it's
no.
not been, yeah.
Let me go back 2 years now.
Yeah, right. So,
I didn't really know that they were optional though.
That's a bad question.
okay.
For me, Act 158 was brought up to provide multiple pathways, and recognizing that some people are not test takers. And I remember talking about Act 158 10 years ago when it was in its planning phase. And that was the premise behind it. And here we are doing the opposite of that, putting an emphasis for all our students to be testers. So you guys can vote the way you want. This stinks to me. Somehow just, it's about your gut reaction, my gut reaction. This isn't gonna be good for all of our students. And somebody said it down at the other end about we're penalizing. I don't know who it was, but
That was me.
I'll concur with you on that. I don't know how it would shake out yet, but I just don't think for me, it just doesn't sit right. Because I just know, going back 10 years ago, the premise behind it was to acknowledge that not everybody's test takers. And quite frankly, if I'm successful at MCTI and I knock the Nokia out of the park, I'm coming out with national recognized certifications and I'm landing jobs and stuff before I graduated already. Why am I gonna be penalized? Because I didn't put an emphasis on taking a test, which I'm obviously gonna be very successful without it.
What if you're not successful, MCD? And
Right.
I don't know where I'm at with this yet, but let me ask you that question. What if you're not successful in that, and now you're way behind and at this point you're not graduating?
Well, I would hope that's where the counseling comes in, because that just didn't happen like that. That was a 3-year progression.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden, you got a student that's an A student and barely pulling a C for the year. There's got to be some flags there, and that's where our counseling's got to come in at.
Counseling at what level? The MCT level, like
Both
sides.
chances are, if it's gonna
Feedback
happen
from-
there, it's probably gonna happen back here too.
Mike, so when do they take those tests? Like, where are the progression CIT? Is it their junior year, their senior year?
Senior.
Yeah, that would be my only concern, like, if they wait for the senior, and for some reason they don't.
But now listen, what we're saying here too is, well, if you're in track 1 or 2 and you can't pass a test, well, then we're gonna put you somewhere else. Or 2, 3, or 4, so you're devaluing track 3, which is MCTI now, because you couldn't do 1 or 2. That's what I heard. Well, if you can't do this, we'll put you somewhere else then. What, are the other ones of less value? That's what I'm taken back by some of that.
I don't think the other one, in my opinion, personally, I don't think at all the other ones are less value. I think it's a time situation. So you won't know if you can pass path, and just to clarify, we won't know if the student will be able to pass on pathway 3, 4, and 5 until their senior year. And what we're trying to do is to front load that and say, well, if we at least have the students take the test, right? Then we know that there's a possibility that they can pass at least one of those 3 tests. And then if we need to remediate by, let's say, the end of sophomore year, then we can do that, right? But it's also to kind of know that information prior to, and like I said, with the example of getting into a 4-year college, you won't know that until your senior year. And what my concern is again, we have great, intelligent kids here, but what happens if that kid said, hey, I'm just going to blow off the, Keystone exams, and then they got to a 2-year college, and now it's like, wait a minute, I was banking on pathway 4, but now I can't even graduate from there. So it's just, again, from our perspective, it's concerning because we want all that 352 kids, and I've been very vocal about this, and I'll continue to be vocal. We have 352 kids that, hit our books that start 9th grade year. We should have 352 graduates. And I'm being very honest about this. When we have kids that do not graduate on time, we failed as a district. And we need to do something to give the students the opportunities within a timely fashion. And that's really what we're trying to propose here is how do we get our students to understand, how do we get our incoming 9th graders, our 8th graders now to know how important it is to take full advantage of these next 4 years because they're going to blow by, and all the seniors, it's the first thing every single senior says is, I can't believe it's over, how quick it is. I wish I did X, Y, and Z. In fact, we actually have them come down and talk to some of the 8th graders and 9th graders. But again,
I think at this point, a couple things I would like to see, because I think this definitely further conversation, and it's good conversation. I'm glad we're having it. but I'd like the other two board members who are not present tonight to be fully involved in this conversation, because I think it's pretty important. But secondly, is it possible to maybe get some of the data that we're looking
Yeah,
for? the other
absolutely.
schools?
I took notes.
And additionally, can we get these slides?
Yes, I was
Yeah.
gonna.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
absolutely.
you attach it to the,
I'll send them to you guys right now.
Thank you.
All right.
I see, so one of the, just because you have that whole spreadsheet of data, I'd be interested to know though, of the 79 students that did not take them, how many of them were actually VOTEC?
20, right? From the other slide,
20.
It was just 20?
Just 20,
was
yeah.
20,
20.
It was just 20
It
that
was there,
didn't
right
take
there.
them?
VOTEC career readiness.
All
No.
others, no, that's
That's
not.
just 20 then.
No, it just says
Oh,
that they graduated to pathway 3.
Right.
I would just like to
Oh,
know,
okay.
Got it.
out of
Got
that
it.
number
You're
of
right.
people
She's
that,
right.
Exactly.
that just didn't test,
Yeah.
how many of them were really VOTEC people?
Yeah.
Or,
And
I mean, I just can't,
right. And I don't think.
I just can't fathom,
I
yeah.
don't think the initial target population is MCTI. I
Yeah,
actually
I don't
frankly
think
think
so.
it's more of the students that are in Bears Academy, because we already know there's a barrier for them to even come physically to school. But I think the statistic was somewhere around like only half of our students that were in Bears Academy that are taking it. And if memory serves me right, I think we have about 130 or so seniors each year, and maybe that number fluctuates. But a good 60 students, that's is a little bit concerning.
I mean, we created that option.
42% for last year, it was.
Well, we created the option because the alternative is let CCA poach our kids. I mean,
Well,
and
hopefully we
that's,
start charging them as work. If people want to go to CCA, they gotta pay
I
a
know,
fee.
yeah.
So,
but
maybe we dissolve Bears Academy then.
I think that would be,
But
if we dissolve Bears Academy, we will lose $7 million
Dollars, I was just gonna
to
say.
to
To
CCA.
under the current regulations, what I'm saying is,
Right.
we want to give transportation. I mean, that's a choice they made to be behind a computer.
But the problem is that we can't offer them the ability, they have to physically come in, even if they're taking Keystones like online, they have to physically be here in a controlled environment in order to take that exam. So that, like I said, it's more of a barrier, and it's not anything that's new. I mean, that's always been an issue for years. Anybody that's been on a cyber school, to just even get them to come in, and that's why we're trying to say, okay, we'll provide, lunch for that day. Let's get transportation. Let's make special, accommodations to help hold those students in.
Let me ask a follow-up on that question, sorry, real quick, it's just as fresh, it's going away already, dang it. Hold on. Okay, based on that comment, does Keystone offer anything now that is not credible to the point of pathway 1 and 2 that students can take online to take the test to fresh up, because if they're going past 3, 4, 5, and what we're saying, all the students need to do is attempt at this point, based on what you're saying. So is there a pathway that Bears Academy students can do that doesn't count toward pathway 1 and 2, however, still satisfy a state requirement of actually taking the test, but not physically in that location? What I just say make sense?
I think so. I think what you're asking is, can they still take the Keystone exam but just not come brick and mortar here?
Correct, but not for credibility, not for credibility of passing, but for credibility of taking the exam for the state,
For the participation?
for their
right?
participation in it.
No, there's
Okay,
no.
thank you.
Because they have to have that controlled environment, and it has to,
Understood.
You still want them to pass.
Right.
You still want them to be
Correct.
proficient. I mean, first step is to get them to participate.
Right.
Because all of the people that aren't participating could very well be proficient, don't know.
And I think for us, in reflection, I mean, our graduation, our numbers, again, as you know, won't come out until December it's a lagging indicator for graduation results, but the class of 2023, I believe, or I'll have to double check. But my point is we were at 89% graduation rate. We're now at 90.8, I believe. So I would say 91%. The problem is that, again, going back to what I said earlier, what about that extra 9% of kids? 9% of 300 kids is 27 kids, right? So 27 kids that out of a large 352 students, we need to figure out how are we going to work with those students. Were they cyber students that never came in and then just never pathway and then just never took the Keystone, never had a chance? because they weren't an MCTI student. So those are things that we want to really look into a little bit more. So I'll definitely get data points, but I'll certainly send this presentation out. Well, listen, we're not asking the board, honestly, to decide right now at this moment. I want you to think about it. I'll certainly, and I already texted the superintendents in Monroe County to find out, are they doing anything with strategies they're implementing? These are all great questions. I want you all to understand that what's on our mind right now as we're getting ready for the upcoming spring Keystones is that we can do better. And we need to figure out some way, some carrot, not a stick, but some carrot to really help our kids to have the possibility to graduate on pathways 1 or 2. And it's like, what's the expression? If you never even step on the field, you're not going to win, right? So we want our kids to step on the field, be equipped to do well. But unfortunately, they're being benched because they're not even, taking the Keystones whatsoever. So now they only have 3 out of 5 possibilities to graduate, and they won't even know what they are until basically their senior year.
So, quick question. How do the homeschool children fit into this picture?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
Homeschool.
so I've been reaching out to the homeschool students in our district. They can either take the test with us or they can take it with, like at another testing location. Like they can go through, like where you would take like your essay or your
Testing facilities.
Yeah, it's like a
Basic
testing
testing
center. Sylvan Learning Center, I think they'd be testing for something like that.
Yeah, in your statistics that you currently have, how many of those homeschool children are taking the Keystone?
I did not break down homeschool.
Well, if you have those numbers, could you provide those as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
I haven't said a lot. Out of those 79 students, they just didn't take them. We don't know for what reason, whether they didn't show up or we just don't have any data on that, right?
Right.
Okay, they just didn't take them. I mean, for me, I think that doing some of the things that you had up there, like talking to the parents, doing those things are fine, trying to get our numbers up. I don't like it tied to graduation. I'm going to say that, but I think it's a start by doing some of the things that you put there. I think also, at the end of their sophomore year, because that's when all the testing should have been done by, then our counselors, I think, need to help too, and have meetings with these students and find out what's going on. But that's where I'm at, I think, at this point.
I like the education of the parents. I mean,
Yeah.
it blows my mind that 79 students never took any of them over the
Yeah.
course of that time. That actually number, the more I look at it, the more it blows my mind. But I think parents are probably very accepting of their student not taking the test when talking about it. So changing that mind frame is a first step. And I think that I think a lot of the things that you went through today are, instead of maybe throwing it all out at once, maybe a couple steps in there. But I agree with Sue and what she just said about taking the parents taking a couple of those things first, but not tying it to graduation. My initial thought
That's
is
my
that.
initial.
However,
yeah. Mhm.
I still am really, really on the fence with this, and I do want to put more emphasis on students and academics, and I feel like over the years, the entire world has gone the other way, but this is a good opportunity maybe to get back on track. However, I don't know
Small
where.
steps, yeah, small steps at a time. All right, let's move on. Thank you very much. It was a very good presentation. Thank you. All right, Bernie, yeah, I'm sorry, Bernie, I didn't mean to, I don't have it on my agenda. It must have just got added. I pulled this, I think, this morning, but anyway, sorry.
That's okay. No, I just wanted to give a quick update that we are preparing for implementation of the new ELA resources by having meetings to review standards, start setting up the scope and sequence. And we start on Tuesday at PDE, where it's and then the rest of that implementation plan is going to be created in collaboration with the teachers and the principals. So, and I can get that plan written once we have it mapped out.
Yeah, that'd be
awesome to
The
share
goal
with
is to have a rough outline of what the scope and sequence will look like for the entire year next year, K to 10, and have the entire first marking period completely mapped out.
That is fabulous
before we
to
leave
do that.
for summer.
No,
Yeah,
great.
that is fabulous to have it the first semester mapped out. That's fabulous, I think, idea. Any questions for Bernie? Okay, so that completes section 2. Are there any questions from the community on section 2?
I just had a quick question. So if there's a relationship between the class grades, if we're talking 1, 2, and 3 pathway, it could be reflective, hold on, let me get my question. So the relationship between the class grade and not taking Keystones, can't we grab them and have teachers in front of them, even if it's cyber school, Bear Academy, et cetera, and then perhaps bring in a mentor with the teacher, because the kids might relate better to the teacher. So if we grab that data to catch it early, first semester, it might turn out better, and the counselors can pull them in, and they could set up pods, or pull a teacher, or get a teacher, or get a retired teacher. I'm just asking
You're talking about for like when they take the test?
before their grades in the classes, algebra, bio, they should be able to see if they're doing well or not doing well, not taking any of the work, not doing any of the work, to do the intervention then earlier, rather than waiting until the end and trying to capture them by their senior year.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that already happens.
It does, yeah. So,
Right,
I
I'm
mean, that-
hopeful.
That was talking about the 79 who don't even take the test. You have to be able to capture them and do an intervention earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
We used to do that. Sorry.
Okay,
Just a suggestion.
Thank you.
all right. Moving on to
Question about the
operation.
relationship between grades and
Okay,
the Keystones. Because we're letting it go too long. I just want to say what about it.
operations. Mr. Smale, anything? Nothing this evening? Okay, transportation, I guess there's nothing. Okay. Do you need a 5-minute break now, or am I just gonna chug, right? I'm going, all right. Techno.
We'll break individually if needed.
What's that?
We'll break individually if needed.
Okay, all right. Technology.
Good evening, everyone. Keeping the quick pace here, I have a quick 3-slide presentation here to go over the proposed plans to upgrade our wireless network.
And you'll send us those or attach it?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Basically, to go over the cost and why we're doing it, and be seeking approval for it for next board meeting.
Okay.
So the reason why we're doing it, it's time to get ready for the future, especially with the demand on state testing, increased devices on our network. We're currently, we're working down to the Wi-Fi 7 standard, which is the currently up-to-date standard for Wi-Fi networks. This upgrade will also help us, finally retire some of our older access points dating all the way back to 2016. It will also, included in the cost that I'll be showing you on the next slide, will be including the centralized wireless management system, which will give our technology department more insight and control on the access points to further, increase stability and, help out, any kind of issues that may be with the wireless network itself. And as I've said, as I said before, meeting and exceeding the demands for online testing. So the cost of this project, which is a E-rate project, the total is $435,462.96. Here we only have to pay 80% since we are using, 20% since we are using 80% of E-rate funding on it. So our overall cost that would have to come out of our pockets would be $87,092.59, thus giving us a project that was $435,000, saving us $348,000. So again, this cost here is also locking us in for 5 years. One thing I wanted to highlight, because we are using E-rate, which is federal funding, there's a lot of things going on with federal funding, so being able to lock in now would just basically, secure our future, especially for 5 years when we're talking about something that's wireless. It's something we want to make sure it's stable and ready to move forward with it. Again, we are looking to move with an Aruba solution. We currently use Cisco, but we're looking to migrate over to Aruba because Cisco is just more expensive. By switching over, we'll have a lower yearly cost moving forward. After we get up and running with it, it will be an app that we'll move forward with unless there's other kind of savings, in the wireless industry. So again, keeping this short here. Any questions?
The upgrades and the access points for the high school, is that part of the renovation project budget already?
So, well, no, because I spoke to Mr. Snell about this. The plan for the renovation is to take down the access points and put them back up once our renovations are done.
Same ones that are currently there?
So this project would be looking to take those out and place them for one swap.
Is there any quality difference between, I've used Aruba before, but is there a difference essentially for Aruba?
I mean, Cisco is your staple brand,
Sure,
but again, that's, it's, kind of like the Mercedes version. It's not saying that Aruba is any worse as far as functioning wise, but it's, you're paying for that name brand because it's a industry standard essentially. But with Aruba, like I said, a lot of school districts are moving towards it because of the cost of Cisco. It has been increasing over each year.
Do you foresee any security, like firewall issues with Aruba versus?
Yeah, they're all about the same.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, this would be also for an on-premise wireless controller. So again, this was one of the things during our evaluation when we were looking for different products. A lot of companies are moving over to a cloud-based management wireless controller. We feel like it's better to have something at least hardware-wise on our network, so this way in the event something does go down, we're not just hoping somebody somewhere fixes it. We can at least put some kind of hands and eyes on it.
What can E-rate be, sorry for all the questions,
No,
I'm just in the zone today.
No,
What can E-rate grant funding also be used for?
So E-rate's very specific. It's basically designed to get students connected to the network. So when we're talking about what it can be used for, think about anything that's like our network access points or network switches, things to keep the network up and running, such as our uninterrupted universal power supplies. Things like that, just to keep a student connected to the network, so this way they can be on the internet.
Thank you.
And just to add to it, this actually was planned, because using the E-rate money in the construction project was gonna be difficult. So that's why we kept it out and did it separately.
That makes sense.
All right.
You guys did a heat map type thing. You have to did you identify additional areas? Like for instance, I'm leaving the high school, right? You get additional runs, right? You have construction going on. Is this inclusive of like additional access points in different locations, like where you have maybe dead spots and stuff?
So with that heat map that we were able to do, a lot of the stuff that we were noticing was just, tweaking our system actually. It wasn't physically putting in new access points. It was adjusting maybe the frequency, the strength, because we had overlapping access points, or they weren't strong enough. So a lot of them
were coverage, you just need more.
Yeah, so again, when we were looking into our number to come up with this proposal, we were pretty safe we were satisfied with the idea of just doing a 1-for-1, so this way it's where we're at. Again, with the construction, things will change with the building itself, but the coverage itself generally should be the same. We're comfortable with it.
Why did we choose Cisco over Aruba or any other vendor prior to the last time we made a choice for this?
So again, this is going back
pretty far.
6 years now. Cisco again being, a prime name in the industry, and we also had many Cisco devices at the time, so it was just an easier switch to just go with devices that we currently have. When we got a wireless controller, we could use some of the access points that we currently had on hand. So it's just.
I think you would probably say 10 years or 12 years ago, Cisco was probably at the top, but over time,
There's more players.
other competition is.
There was a bigger gap in technology. Right now, it's all
Exactly. Again, looking at the pricing, that's why we figured, and we're not the only ones, like I said, a lot of other schools are moving towards it to go to the cheaper route with it.
We don't need the Mercedes, we drive tractors around.
All right.
Yes.
So let's be very clear there.
That's true.
Any other questions?
All right, so we're okay putting that on the agenda for next board meeting?
Good.
Okay.
Last thing I have for tonight is just a quick update on multi-factor authentication. I'm sure this has been a buzz for a little bit. So our technology department has successfully tested it. We basically started with a small pilot group of us, and figured we're the ones to fix it if anything breaks. So we tested with us, had no issues. Our next step is to move our pilot group to a little bit of a larger group, which is our Act 93. So we'll be moving that forward soon. We don't have the exact date just yet, but we'll make sure all the pieces are in place. So this way we can now test with a larger group of staff to see if there's any other pitfalls we need to be accommodating for. And then this way we can start looking at then further rolling it out throughout the entire business.
Are you doing it via app or are you doing it via text message? How are you?
So right now we're looking at using Duo. So it would have an app, or you also have the physical key that you can use as well. So we didn't identify which route we're going to go with, but the options are available.
Just an update. So yeah, we're not going to go with this at all. We can't actually, and this has been a challenge, I think, for years, and it does go into, whose device. There are a lot of concerns regarding that and a lot of apprehension, rightfully so, that staff members might not want to use their own personal device for, and then, multi-factor authentication. So what we have decided, and this just came about recently, was it will be a fob, like thing that they'll have in their, ID pouch. And this way they'll be able to see it. Now, typically, could you talk a little bit about when they would need to use it? It's for things like, it's the.
Logging into your laptop.
Yep.
And then basically we can lock it into, because the main reason we're doing MFA is to prevent any sort of, data breaches.
Yep.
Look at PowerSchool, multi-billion-dollar company, and they got data breach. So essentially what this would do is any kind of core systems like that. So for example, in my personal use, testing this out, I log into the laptop, it asks, the password gets in, and then it says, all right, what's your now, the token that's, or the number that's on your token. Type it in, then you're on the laptop. At that point, everything else looks fine until I go to something like, say, PowerSchool. PowerSchool, then it's asking me to then Google administration. So I take that back. Again, a little different access to it than the usual end user. But once you get to the front door of the laptop, basically they won't see much of an interruption at all. The only time that they'll see a problem is it's set by default 12 hours. You can now have to put in your token. Or if you change, wireless VLANs, or if you're jumping to a different building, it'll prompt it because it notices a physical change in your IP address.
So for like, if I'm using my desktop, you're gonna make me do it every 12 hours?
No, you can set it so it lasts for 12 hours.
So what's the initial policy? Is it 30 days? Is it 7 days? What's your initial, like, say, for instance, we have to log in. If I'm on my desktop, every 30 days, my desktop, or a new machine, right? If I hit a new machine, if I do it once, it holds for 30 days before I have to re-up it again. Or you're usually doing it daily.
I think currently it's set to every login.
Yeah, bless you.
Growing pains, but I think Google was just hacked with 2 billion passwords that were just stolen.
I know.
So I mean, I think it's just unfortunately a reality that it's not just PowerSchool, it's literally like your own email addresses that you have to be careful.
The thing is, like, when you have a laptop that's mobile, that's the main concern. Like a desktop, we could absolutely say, 30 days, because no one's gonna be taking a desktop and running away with it, I would hope not. But a laptop, if say, you leave it on, leave it outside, or, if someone gets into your car and takes it, well, there's that risk. If they somehow get the password, for a fact they can't get any further because they won't have that MFA.
Oh, just so everyone knows too, we'll have to obviously update the fob policy to include this. So that's going to be forthcoming, but I think that's more of a summer project into next year. We're going to test it out, but yeah, we'll have
The other thing with the fob is, will there be like a secondary authentication code? So that would be my big thing. Like if the fob, whatever, I'm sick that day, or I forget my keys at home with my fob. Like, can you use the cell phone? Is there a secondary mode of
Yeah,
authentication?
you can, again, we're looking at.
I know we don't, some people don't want to, but.
Like there, you can in tandem have it on your personal phone or, on the app as well.
Okay.
I
I just make sure there's like 2 methods.
backup.
So is this, do we need approval for this?
No, just an update.
That's just an update. Okay, all right. Any questions from the community on technology? Okay, moving on to security.
So Mr. Walters already covered the Special Olympics. It's a pretty big event that we host here one time a year. Considered to be a soft target, so I prepare accordingly for that since it is outside.
Date?
It is the 28th, and then 29th is the rain date.
I'm sorry,
It's the 28th, and then the 29th.
April?
Yes, and then 29th is the rain date.
One more question.
Yes.
Do you need fire department?
That's already in the game plan, yes. Ms. Harris has reached out to West End to.
Okay, just checking, because they ask me all the time, are they gonna call us for the Special Olympics? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, for the light of the torch, they always.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's already in.
Okay.
In the game plan already, so. And then for the exterior window numbers, when you walk through the building, each room has a number assigned to it. Emergency responders, if they enter the building, look for those identifying the numbers in the halls. The same thing will be for an exterior emergency, if they have to enter the building from the exterior. That number on the window will coincide with the interior number, and you'll be able to identify that problem area more easily by that number.
Yeah.
So the last thing I have is, no vape signs actually just came in, alerting that there's vape detectors in the bathrooms. We will be installing these over the next couple of days in all the restrooms that have devices, regular devices.
Thank you for listening.
Yes. So it's a funny story with this.
But not in Spanish too.
Well, but, to try to buy these online, they want a $3,000 on online company for 30 signs. I tried to have a local vendor do it, never came through with a quote. Finally found somebody from Lehigh Valley that came up. He gave us $1,000 price for 30 signs that have the hard back. You stick on the wall there. He recommended not to do that. He said it's like an overkill type of deal. He recommended having the sticker type back on the sign itself. They wanted like $500 for that. I worked with Mr. Boylan. We ended up using the template that the online company sent me, and we were able to make this for 2 sheets of paper rather than 500.
Brilliant.
Way to go.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So we used our own resources.
That's
I
great.
got a text message today with that sign. I was smiling ear to ear, but I will say this, we've talked about how we're gonna use that as like a temporary solution. We'll have more of a fixed solution once they go through each of the hallways and do the painting. And then once they, let's say, finish the hallway, then we'll be able to put the, hard plastic.
Yeah, more professional.
Yeah, professional looking.
Right, the renovations, that's where most of the angles are.
Exactly.
We'd end up ripping them off the walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe that would help another school that was here for a basketball game.
Yeah.
Hey, to our advantage, right?
How about that?
They knew they were there.
All right, any comments from the public on security, closed security items just discussed? Okay, moving on to policy. So first topic is travel policy, and I know, Mr. O'Keefe, you had asked for
Yeah,
this,
just
so.
that I know we were asked to support training opportunities for several employees to go on. And I want to make sure that, one, they're protected with the policy to follow, and two, that we're protected to make sure that policy is being followed. I did find 331 and 626, but I did not know about the AR, which gives some more details into that. And working on federal programs myself, they are very detailed of what they will and not pay for. So I just wanted to make sure we were doing CYA for us. And again, if it's out there, we can follow it. When we're not aware of it, then it makes it more difficult in the end.
So we're okay?
Yeah, I guess
Everything's
having the AR made it more clear.
Yeah, the AR
And
did.
I'm glad you brought it up too, because I mean, again, we're always looking at, do we have the most updated information? Are we following the right procedures? I know Tammy is great about, making sure that we're doing things the right way. We have multiple eyes on it, but I'm glad you brought it up, frankly. So thanks.
Now, the ARs, they're not available, that's.
They're there.
They're
there.
online, yeah.
Yeah,
They're online.
So, yeah, it's at the bottom.
It was,
Can you-
Mr. O'Keefe, it was
That's
policy
at the bottom.
331 AR. It should be all.
Yeah, can you pull that up? I need a chance just to show, just.
If you go up to
The policies.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right, just up to policy. No, all the way up to,
Right.
up, yeah,
Yep, up.
up.
No.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay.
There you go.
Just pull like 300,
331.
331, go down.
It's 311.
That's 311, but 331.
All right.
Yeah, I know. And see the thing behind, that says there's an AR there, that little, whatever that is,
Yeah.
tells you that there's an AR there, just so everybody knows. Okay? Thank you, Chuck. All right, item B is 905, the AR for the Citizens Advisory Committee. And actually, this was updated from the original one. And I know that Mr. Kaczynski was questioning some things on here and the removal of some items, but truly, when I compared the policy to the AR, and the things a number of things that he wanted to remove are in the policy. So it's.
Can I make a recommendation at this point? I mean,
Sure.
I know that we don't want to push this any further because we want to get this in place. The community has asked
Right.
that. At the same time, I think we've gone through a couple steps to get the community more involved in our working session. And I think that holds it over until this policy goes through. So since Mr. Kaczynski is going to be an integral part of this policy, I think maybe tabling it one more time so we can talk and manage this.
I would suggest we not table it, we go ahead with it. No, we go ahead with it, get the committee going, and then we can adjust
Yeah.
as
We
needed.
have okay.
We have the ability to do that. It's our AR.
I think as my guess is we have a vision for what's gonna happen. But once we actually start getting into it and meeting with community members and really having that dialogue, my anticipation is that vision's gonna be altered and changed, and it's gonna require us to go back and change course, because I think once we start hearing their voices, what we intended might pivot to a more focused area or difference. So I think
This
it's
is-
going to be a
Yeah.
living.
So this is not, okay, so this is
No.
not locking in
No,
a specific
no,
structure.
no.
No, so
Okay.
ARs can be, so just a couple of things,
Yeah.
if you guys don't mind. So ARs can be adjusted and updated at any time. If you remember, so we are, so the policy 905 has already been approved. And now it's already going through PSBA, which I don't think there's any major concerns there. The AR was just literally, I started off by just taking notes. And so the reason I said, okay, maybe we'll have this as an AR, it's to capture the conversation we had. The intention was never for me to tell you how to run this thing. That's all you guys. But, again, there's going to like Mr. Clark said, it may adjust and adapt. I think a lot of the stuff that I was trying to capture here was, does it relate to the policy? But the other part too, and we started this conversation right from the beginning, how do we organize this? Because here's what we didn't want, is what the notes that I have. We didn't want a bunch of people coming here and saying, well, this is an issue and that's an issue, without us having time to really think about it and get diverse perspectives. So all I tried to do was capture literally notes. I have notes from the first time where it was just hey, and I've given us a couple of revisions of it. So to me, the AR is kind of like an AR, and it's kind of not, in the sense that it captures the essence of what was discussed. But I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't lock the board into any of these things that are required, because it's going to ultimately pivot. The intention was also to put some guardrails in there, right? So, if we're saying, hey, we have to address an issue, I don't think there's anybody here that would say, okay, let's spend a couple of nights to do it. I don't think anybody would be opposed to it, but, what's that frequency, right? Because we all, have different working schedules and stuff. So honestly, it's to be amended as you see fit.
Okay.
But the other part too, and I think this was really important at the end, was basically that there would be notes from the meetings. Right? How is the committee of 9, the committee, and with me being the 10th, how do we know what's being discussed and at what depth? So the idea was, hey, let's get some notes, and maybe there's some things that are happening kind of as a committee, if you will, like a board committee, and then it's being brought back to the public, to the 9 of you saying, hey, we should actually discuss this a little bit more. Can we get the information on X, Y, and Z? So like I said, I think the intention of this is just to really, you're the board, you can decide however you want this to operate, but these are some maybe recommendations based on your own feedback about how do we want this to orchestrate. And just like Mr. Clark said, it could be a totally different document in a year from now, but I think it's cool that we're getting it started,
Yeah, that makes sense.
So-
Yeah,
Keep
so,
pushing it off instead of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. So that's exactly right.
so, I mean, with that being said, do we identify a topic that needs, or do we want to put that out there? Because I'm just saying, Kathy and I went through.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, but I don't know if I wanna set a topic yet until I have members of this committee, so.
Okay,
So,
sure,
yeah,
sure.
so,
I mean, I'm willing to
all right,
serve on the
so
committee.
that was that was where I was
But
gonna
also
go.
community members, once we have that community members, we still have to collect who wants to do this.
Right.
So I don't wanna set a topic before we even have.
Well,
One thing I'll say is, so we literally have the link all ready to go on the website for under the community page for people to articulate what they want to do and how they want to contribute. But going back to the actual policy itself, and what it says right up here is that the board at its discretion defines the committee's assignment. So I don't think, at least from what I heard, that the person who's the chair picks the topic. I think the 9 of you all, from the feedback you're getting from the community, say, hey, let's say the budget's the issue or security's the issue, because then what I do is we go on the website and we can announce this even on Facebook. If you're interested in joining the Citizens Advisory Committee with a focus on X, safety, let's say, please fill out this Google form, and then we can start, kind of getting that process rolling. So whatever you all think is the
And
right.
then at what point, sorry, at what point then, just to the people in the community, bring up topics that are not
I
specific?
think at the first meeting.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's my vision.
That's
I
what the
mean,
first
this is
meeting.
my vision. I mean,
Okay.
first of all, I wanted to name John as the chairperson. Rob was willing to sit on it. And then we had said that the third person, depending on the topic, would be whoever might have expertise or be part of the, knowing a certain individual topic. So the next thing in my mind would be to ask everyone if they have a topic that they'd like to start with. I think we just need to put a topic out there the first time. Then when they meet, then they can say to the community, okay, what do you think should be the next topic? And ask. And the other thing I just thought of, I don't know if there's room on that Google form even to put, is there something you would like discussed? At least then we would know. I don't know. That's another thought I just
I
had.
think there should be a way for people to submit
Topics,
topics
topics.
for consideration.
We can, yeah,
Could
we
we
can
add
certainly
that?
get it.
And have an online form
Yeah.
so that you don't have to be physically present.
Yeah.
To submit a
Could we
form
add that?
and
Is
attend the
there a
meeting.
is there a
And
specific-
then when that
We
meeting,
can.
when that topic comes up, those people who are interested in that topic can attend the meeting.
But are you talking about multiple topics being discussed at?
No, 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 no. It's just something for
I
the
mean, we can have multiple topics that are possible to be discussed, but my recommendation is at any one meeting, you discuss one topic so you can find a path forward
Right.
with that topic. And then at that meeting, they can decide what the topic should be for the next meeting.
And what are the
As a
frequencies? I think that's gonna take forever. What are the frequency of the meetings?
What you had said and
Monthly.
I said, the will of the board was monthly.
Yeah, and no, monthly I think is a great idea,
Yeah.
but I mean, we're gonna get 20
Well,
to
let's
30
see how it
topics
goes.
off the
Again.
bat.
So
We might have to adjust.
Yeah, all
the
right, let's
frequency of
just
how many
see how it,
topics.
let's just see.
Can I
Again,
get all
we're
worked
trying
up?
to get
All
all,
worked up?
we gotta just start and
I
see where it
do
goes.
agree that we have to start. The one thing that I wanna say though,
Mhm.
based on, because I did some homework on this, right, with
Right,
some
you
other
did.
school districts.
Right.
And read some of the
Mhm.
PSBA. Anyway, checked out a bunch of the websites. One of the, nobody's really changing the community members based on topic,
Yeah.
right? And the one thing that was important in the people that I talked to was to make sure that you had a diverse group of members so that you weren't getting a narrow view of the problem.
Correct.
Let me read the questions if you don't mind, because I think there's what I'm hearing is a couple different ways to do it. Either put a Google form out there that says, please submit your name, township you reside in, and the topic that you think is of pressing importance. That's option one. Or option two is the board decides, at least to start off, what do you feel based on feedback from the community should be the number one topic. And then we kind of go from there, because here's what I have on the form. I have the email, first name, last name, the Citizens Advisory Committee for, and then whatever that advisory committee is for, what describes you as a parent, other support or community resident, your residency. If you choose other, please note where, but they have to obviously be within the boundaries of the district. I would think that that's the rule before, but you guys can adjust that. How would you contribute to the committee's function?
I don't even think that needs to be there.
And please provide a list of, or background about your experience and be specific on the topic.
See, and this is where I get concerned.
Yeah.
If you have a committee, I don't think you're swapping out members every
Yeah,
month.
that's where I
I
got
think
lost.
you're picking the committee for the year.
Yeah.
Or something.
Right, that's what it
Okay.
sounded like. Was the
And like,
Yes,
Okay,
that's what I
that's
was.
fine.
it would be a logistical nightmare to try and change out based on topic.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think you have to get a sample size large enough to be representative, and
I
that's.
don't like the other there.
An application?
Which, the other,
I don't like the other there
yeah.
for
we can-
township. I mean, we just, you
There's
have to
only
reside in our school
Chestnut
district.
Hill, Eldred, Polk, and Ross.
Right, you don't need other, and take that next question
I'll
out.
delete that.
Yeah, my opinion.
No, we could do that. I mean,
Yeah,
I kind of wonder too. I'm like, where are they coming
Yeah,
from?
well,
Other
why
than
would that-
before, right?
yeah, other than the four.
Because the policy didn't, maybe I misread it, but the policy didn't say we'd rotate community members.
No, it said board member.
Right, so I feel like, my vision also was, we have, 3 board members and maybe whatever, 6 or 7 community members that sit, and the same recurring cast continues to do that.
And
Working through issues, that's what I would,
Yes.
that was my vision,
And,
because if you keep swapping out parts, you're never gonna get people.
yeah, because you're gonna rehash the same thing over and over.
That's what we're never gonna do.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Yes, nobody that I talked to was swapping out.
No,
Yes.
no,
Community-
I
like-
don't think that was, it was just the board member was gonna be swapped.
And that's why I was
Yeah, I
saying, if we
okay.
collect.
Like some of them had multiple advisory committees, like the one district had 4 different, right? But the
Mhm.
committee itself, like one was on safety
Right.
and security, that committee stayed the same.
Correct, the same, we talked about safety, we
Right.
talked about,
Yes.
almost like a community board.
Yes.
That talked about finance, talked about this, and those people were then the advocates back to everyone else. And then advocates from them to us.
Okay.
So, but how, I guess my question is, how does it start, right?
You got
That's why I would collect the people, so the people then would help set.
So do you want to, you want me to just say, if you're interested in becoming on the Citizens Advisory Committee, name, township, and
Reason we want to be.
the reason, yeah, and actually the questions, 'cause I tried to take them right from the policy, is how can you contribute to the committee's function? And then please provide details about your background and experience on, I'll say school-related topics, so it's broad scale.
And also, and maybe throw in there about the top 5 things you'd want to
Okay.
work on in this.
Right.
Yeah, I
Then they
like
can
that.
help maybe direct us, if everyone says the same thing, hey, finance, 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 finance. okay,
Right, so,
next time,
right,
finance,
first time the
then
committee has to talk about
Obviously, there's a
finance.
big need for that.
And I did like the idea, Mr. Catlin, he left now, Mr. Catlin, oh, you're slow over there. Mr. Galler had, I forget when he mentioned it, but if it comes up to be finance, then, the initial like 10 minutes, maybe, Tammy as our business manager reviews some things to do with the finance so that there's also a learning curve there,
I mean, I know the board's gonna sit at the top, but I also want the community to be able to have a voice of, oh, yeah, so, yeah, that is a valid topic. We, I think back and said it before, but they have to have a strong voice, like, it's a committee,
Okay, so have Dr. Conrad put this out
Yeah, I
And
think.
and get started?
Yeah, we can
get
do it
started.
tomorrow.
See
I
who
mean,
applies,
you guys are
and then
good.
it's more of them
Yeah.
decide.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll help
And
us
then-
set the direction.
Okay,
I mean, that's how I
And-
feel.
all right.
That's how I feel.
Do
And
it.
depending on what the topic is, or do we want to have the 3rd board member, or do we want to wait till the topic?
Let's wait till we have a topic.
Okay,
We
All
have a committee.
Yeah.
So,
Huh?
So let's wait till we have a committee.
so please select up to 5 topics you're interested
I,
in.
no, no, I would,
How do you
yeah,
want
I
to
would
do it?
just, it's a general kind of question.
Right.
Is what are,
What are topics that
Topics
you?
of interest you would like
Topics
to
of
see this community discuss.
I'm gonna fill that in.
Got it, I like it.
Because in this
Fill it out as a
committee, I want the topics that are most important to the community
So it has
to come to us.
Interest.
okay,
Yeah, I think my only concern
And
is,
then out of those topics, we can decide, that's where we
I see.
decide, where to put the emphasis, along with the committee to go forward.
okay? Okay. I know you're still typing.
Sorry, no, I think you're good. Topics of interest you find are the most important to discuss in this committee? And then it's just open-ended, okay.
Okay, all right. So item C is policy 915, which has to do with our school district logo. Is that just on there for,
It's on there timely because of, with the renovation project, and actually I just met with Daisy Genovese for the mural that the class of 2024 is going to be dedicating on one of the walls. Knowing that, we're going to be repainting some of the walls, I had this, something I've looked at, I've mentioned with Mr. Krasinski and also with Mr. Boylan as well, about like possibly updating some of the logos. Some of the logos I think, really aren't used, like the big like teddy bear one. And then we have some logos like we have in the high school gym that, again, might need updating. I like it, but at the same time, I figured I would just put it out to the board to say, are there some logos? We obviously, I think our most traditional one, which actually we're looking to trademark, is the bear claw with PV. So that is something that we're going to be trademarking, correct? Yeah. So and then it gave us some opportunities.
Everybody makes a decision.
Well, yeah, not okay, right, exactly. We just need feedback. But at the same time, I just put some bears just to see if you like them, and if not, that's fine too, but wasn't sure what the thoughts were.
I like the growly bear.
Yeah, I like the angry guy.
I like the angry bear.
Can you pull that up, Chuck? Because to be honest with you, I
And,
read it.
and just so you can kind of understand my world, it was like, maybe there's an E and I there, and maybe there's a
Yes.
middle school, high school
I
there,
agree.
right? So I mean, that's kind of where I was going with it, but,
Okay.
I'd say it's just a standard bear paw across the whole district.
just keep it the original, okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't want to go away from that, just to be crystal clear. I never want to deviate from that. I just thought that, if there's other things we wanted to put around the school, like an actual bear, would the board be interested in looking at options?
I mean, let's think about it, what would you put on the center court?
The one on the right. I mean, but I'd have bear paws on each of the corners, you know, kind of like the Celtics. So, I mean, I thought that'd be kind of cool, but that's, again, it has a lot of implications.
It does,
and
no,
things.
it's, yeah.
So, and I don't want to change, listen, I do not want to change tradition. If everyone is happy with the upper left corner, we keep it. But again, there's a lot of these aesthetics that we're gonna have to think about, you know.
That's part of what we're doing. We're re-imaging this district,
Correct.
what we're doing at the high school.
That's right.
That facade, everything, it's gotta flow all the way through.
Yeah.
And it's a refresh of what PB is about.
So,
Can we think about it?
yeah, think about it.
Definitely not lower left.
What?
I said definitely not lower left.
It's kind of cute.
I don't think, no,
Yeah, yeah.
not going for,
I'm just kidding.
not going for cute.
Yeah, so.
I feel like the one on the right looks like a traditional professional sports logo.
I feel like the one on,
Look at it.
yeah, I feel like that's the one that looks like the one people get on their varsity jackets.
It is,
Yeah.
it is.
What's the bottom left?
Yeah, that's what I was
Part of
trying
my
to.
top varsity jacket.
Except with a red tongue, which I don't.
Yeah, the red tongue's big.
Oh,
On the jacket.
On the jacket.
on the jack.
Oh, yeah. We can
Yeah,
make
that's
it
our,
black. So think about it.
All
I
right,
just wanted to put it
okay.
out there because I didn't want to, you know, go down a path that you're like, absolutely not, so.
okay.
Okay.
All right. Do you have anything under, sorry, community, anything under those, policy?
Just one question with the community committee, because I felt the spirit of questioning the spirit of the committee would be that we didn't lose our voices, that we would open up dialogue, because there's been a barrier with maybe all the transitions, whatever. Because we don't want to lose our voice, and after you establish with the community and who's on the team, we would like to have a give and take with it, with issues, because we've been asking a lot of questions, and we want answers. So I don't want it to be filtered out, or no, you can't be on the committee. If you can't have a dialogue, it's not gonna work. If it's gonna be dictated by what you guys want, and we can't communicate with issues we've been bringing up since whenever, it's not gonna work.
Well,
And just
I-
to make sure your voices, our voices count, and you might wanna change experiences versus contributions, because some people are gonna be intimidated, like, you know, we're gonna have a college degree. I just want us to be able to heard, whether I'm saying this correctly or not, it doesn't matter at this point. I don't want, our voices don't want to be lost. We want to be able to open a conversation, because a lot of community members respond and say, it's not being heard. So that's what the point of the committee is. That was the spirit of the committee.
It's, a lot of people up here feel the very same way you do.
I agree.
Specifically, Mr. Kaczynski is gonna be running the committee, so
But, yeah, but
to ease your mind
it's
a
going to
little
be
bit.
just all of you guys, and we're going to be told what to do.
No,
It's only three of us, first of all, it's only two of us right now.
No.
And
And
then you might put verbiage on it or whatever. you
We
might
just set the
do,
topic
yeah,
to
because
set by the
people might be intimidated, so what were you experiences? Oh God, what does that mean? You know,
He's looking at
Well,
it.
no, we have to make sure that we want to know what people's backgrounds are, right? We don't want, I don't want six
You don't want 10
high school,
teachers.
high
You
school
want
parents in there, or six
representatives.
business owners.
Agreed,
Yeah.
agreed.
So I need a device, I want to
It's a
ride,
cross-section of
cross,
community.
right, I want to mix this all.
Maybe the
I don't wanna
words,
pick all the
maybe
same
the
type
words
of people.
experience
Agreed.
and or
We want to be
contribution,
able
or like
to
maybe
voice
additional
things,
experience.
whether
Yeah.
anybody feels uncomfortable or not, because we feel uncomfortable.
Well, and again, this is a version one, right? And it's gonna
Yes,
evolve.
so
As
it's
that
gonna
community
evolve,
starts
just
growing.
as long
We're not gonna hit a home run the first time.
It has to be, right? Because what's the point of having a community?
Right.
Committee if it's not gonna be.
Well, I'll change the, I can add experience and or contribution, but I was trying to honor the wording in the policy, which actually specifically says background and experience, but that's fine. I mean, the idea is we want people to feel comfortable. There shouldn't be any intimidation to share your thoughts or perspectives. And really that's how we're gonna, look at our excellence in education, a community commitment. And that's what it has to be. So, and I'm happy that the board, really is going to get this thing moving in the right direction. So, and then make sure we open the dialogue up for everyone. And regardless, you don't have to have a doctorate degree to have a conversation. You have a concern, and there should be dialogue about it. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. So.
I will say real quick about the committee, if we get to the point where specific community members are asking questions and getting good feedback and good dialogue about a specific subject, and then going out to other community members via social media and putting incorrect information out when they were themselves the one gathering the information at the meeting, I'm gonna have a big problem with that. And I'm gonna ask that we readjust the entire purpose of having the meeting in the first place.
Yeah.
Because we
Very good point.
Well, that would probably be brought out then a board meeting. What was concluded, what was discussed, what was the relevance.
Correct, but I'm saying,
Because that does have to be.
correct, but what I'm saying is one of my pet peeves now
It's incorrect information.
is there are people that have come to board meetings and then gone out on social media and put out information that was actually incorrect based on the material that they just sat through at the very board meeting. You know what I mean? So that is something that I want to try to minimize because it starts an unnecessary fire online when the information was literally put in front of them. So
That's another element of it, being able to get communication out. Maybe you need surveys going out to the parents.
We just need correct information to go out.
and listen, if surveys are going to help, we'll talk about that and we'll consider it. I mean, like
That's part of the committee. That's
Part of the
good.
committee, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It's gotta start somewhere.
People want to know.
Okay. Do you have anything under your superintendent's?
No.
Okay, so Jim, you're probably really sorry.
Listen, I'll get a coffee bar. Just for
Well, I'll invite you all to our staff versus student basketball game tomorrow. Participate.
Can you make that a
tomorrow.
soccer game, just like soccer matches?
No, it's basketball. It's our March Madness PPE and food drive that we kick off tomorrow. So, but I just want to give a quick athletics update in regards to ending winter and starting spring. Chuck, I put a couple slides together for us on this. Nothing big. As you know, as you heard from Mr. O'Keefe, we had some great runs. Boys basketball got into the playoffs this year. One of our students, Juliet Trout, made it all the way out to states. She didn't make it all the way, but she made it to states in our first year as a recognized girls wrestling varsity program. And the intramural forms have been flying off the wall in the office for girls who heard about it and want to join in. And I think we're going to have a great opportunity to grow the program in the district as we move forward. And to show that, I have some numbers that I put together. And also cheer had a great season as well. They had their ups and downs, but they made it to districts, came up as a runner-up, and then did make it out to states as well. Just some numbers for you. I know Mr. Gizecki asked for some numbers. Preseason signups with Arbiter. As you can see, for our winter sports, we had 30 in the boys varsity and JV. By the end of the season, we had 21 with tryouts and all that. Freshman boys basketball had 24 tryout. Between selections and postseason, we had 14. You'll see at the middle level, we were keeping a lot to build our programs. In the past, those numbers were actually very small, maybe 12 to 15. This year, boys middle school basketball and girls middle school basketball kept about 24 to 26 players on their roster, which is beneficial to us because it helps us build our program as they get up. And I think within maybe next year or the year after, we'll start to see a girls freshman basketball team back at PB. Since I came on and prior, there hasn't been a girls freshman team, but we're starting to see numbers to adequately put together a girls freshman team. So we hope to keep that trend going at the middle school and growing those programs. You'll see varsity wrestling, 27 preseason. We had 24 wrestlers throughout the season. Girls varsity wrestling, we had 19 sign up, 14 who really got into the season. And I will say we did a dual sport in girls wrestling too. We had a young lady who was a cheerleader and was also a wrestler. And let me tell you, she cheered at some of the matches and then she went in the wrestling mode. She turned it on cheer and then she turned on cheer, and turned on wrestling. And that's a great experience. And that's commendable to both our coaches to see our kids be able to do that in the sports that we offer during the winter. And we hope to see more dual sports like that throughout the year as we move forward. One thing that did, as I put this report together, did concern me was our middle school wrestling. We only had 15 sign up, and last year we had approximately 24 sign up. And I don't know if that's because of the split in the community rec wrestling program, if that drew some of our in-house wrestling away at the middle school. That's something to look into in the future, because we really want to continue to build our program. And then Mr. Davis' intramural winter track, we had 9 participants, and it's an intramural, but they have to have physicals, PIAA physicals, all to compete in those winter track events, and it's all clubs throughout the Lehigh Valley and the Pocono area. And I don't know, Chuck, if you could just slide up a little bit. Again, we went back, I can't see it, but we also, again, had 1 independent swimmer participate. As you know, we don't offer swimming. It's not a team recognized sport, but we can offer independent. And Pocono Mountain, we have a relationship with them that they can go swim on their meets as a Pleasant Valley student. So we did have 1 swimmer. She swam 2 years ago as a freshman, kind of took off last year, didn't want to do it, and then came back this year and swam independently for us. She did not make states or anything, but again, she enjoyed the season being able to swim. Spring signups, if you can go back, right there, yeah, spring signups. So as you can see, these are the numbers preliminary that we signed up. We had a total of 381 athletes sign up. You're gonna see some record numbers in boys and girls track this year. We had 62 boys sign up for track, and there are about 62 boys out there. And the better number is the 58 girls that signed up for track. Again, doing that dual sport, dual seasons, you're seeing a lot of our athletes that need to keep themselves conditioned as we move into the fall season are doing our track and field. And we saw a significant rise in our throwers this year with our shot put, discus, and javelin. We've seen some of our freshman basketball players come out with the throwing. It's going to help their muscle tone as they move into the season next year with that off-season. Yes.
Where's girls soccer at? Is that not on there?
Middle school, it got cut off. There's middle school girls soccer on there. I think it's because it's blown up. Chuck, can you shrink that table a little bit?
Yeah, it's getting cut off at the bottom.
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
There's 24 girls, 24 girls sign up for middle
Okay, we're still
school.
offering it, so I was scared.
If you click the, there it is. 22, I was off by 2. We do have 22 middle school girls sign up for soccer. And one of the good things this year, and I've been trying to do this with all of our middle school programs, is to schedule with middle schools in the Valley, because that's the competition we're gonna go up against as we move up into the JV and varsity. Girls softball, I was able to get 2 games with Parkland. I got a game with Northampton. I got a game with Freedom's feeder program down there. So I'm trying to give us some more competition, because the only way we're gonna build our programs is that they go up against those competitions earlier in the sporting program here at Pleasant Valley. Just some updates, progress. Mr. Schmel and myself have set up a meeting on 3/26 here with all of our outside groups that use our facilities, just to explain the construction coming up and the usage of our facilities. And there are going to be a lot of changes that may occur on a daily basis where we may need to move people. We just want the community to know that we still want to host them here in our facilities, but depending on how the construction's going, we just want to know that we may have to change some things abruptly at day that they may be using it that night. We may need to change them around or move them to a different building. But we're gonna meet with those community organizations and just explain our, hopefully, plan as the year goes on, and just tell them, just be flexible. We all have to be flexible. We need you to be flexible as well with a lot of the changes that are going on. In the new gym, Mr. Smale and his maintenance group, we cleaned out the mezzanine that's upstairs. There were boxes and boxes of old football face guards and all. We put them on auctions. They didn't sell on auction. We don't need to store that going into the renovation. We cleaned that area up. Put a lot of the trophies off to the side that we found up there. As we get those new trophy cases in that hallway with the renovation, we want to put those things in there so we can display them. All the Hickson Gym equipment was moved into the fitness center that was able to be moved. Other was put in storage, and we were even able to update some of the older equipment in the middle school. So kids over at the middle school that are lifting now with intramurals have some newer equipment to do that as well. The stadium garage, we cleaned that out. I will tell you, we found a lot of things in there tucked up into the top and the rafters and all. I actually found a brand new box of bases that were purchased in 2009 for a baseball field that was shoved up in the back corner. So again, this renovation is helping to prepare us by cleaning up, and we're finding things that are usable and that we can use. Approximate schedules for intramurals have been put together. Lisa, my secretary, has done a great job to put those 3 years out. We asked our coaches for 3 years out of when they're gonna run their intramurals, where they need to run their intramurals. And we have that data as changes start coming with phases that we're in. We know where to move people. So we're preparing for this as well for our athletic program. You bet, John. Some important upcoming dates for board members. I'd like to invite you to May 15th is our signing day. We'll be having that in the new gym. May 19th, our tentative sports physicals for next year. And then May 22nd are the AAA awards, the academic arts and athletics. And, you know, we did it once last year. Mr. Boylan and myself have been talking how we can do better this year and change some things up. So your feedback after that last year, and you know, that kind of feedback we got from parents, we're trying to make it better and easier this year on folks as well. Yes.
The May 19th physicals, does that cover like spring sports too, or there's usually a two?
So as you know, last year PIAA changed the date for physicals to May 1st instead of June 1st.
Right.
So May 1st now allows us, especially with cheerleading tryouts, to get those physicals done for those upcoming sixth graders that will be coming at the middle school, and anyone who wants to do that, so we can hold tryouts then. And that was the biggest move of that, and a lot of schools are graduating earlier now, and.
But that's good for the year though, like if I.
Oh, it's good for the year, yes, yes. So there is an overlap, it's an overlap, yes.
I'll just get it
There's
there.
it's a 13-month physical now, yes. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question at first. So yes, they're actually good until June 30th, but you can now get them May 1st.
Mr. Krasinski,
Yes.
so the May 15th signing day, that's typically for athletics, but.
No, again, it will be like last year.
Okay, it'll be
combined all
athletic,
three, military, and those have made commitments to universities.
And then are we doing a separate signing day for students that have committed, like a commitment day or something for students that are
No,
going
we're
to?
all, with all the renovations and all, we moved it, everything, it'll be throughout the day.
Perfect, okay. All right.
But it'll all be on one day.
Well, I guess, sorry, I know it's
Everybody's
late.
tired.
I know. I'm just wondering, like, so let's say a student that's not going into the military, that, you know, is going to a 4-year college, do we have some sort of
So
ceremony?
yeah, there'll be recognition on that same day.
Okay, sorry, I'm
So, the way.
Having a hard time following along?
I really am, I'm sorry.
So, yeah,
That's
so
because
it'll
he's
be
doing
like
10 things
all
at a time.
academia and military, and then, you know, we'll have like little a brunch or, you know, finger food or whatever, like we did last year.
Okay.
And then we'll transition to the athletic one.
Fantastic.
You know, because kids like to decorate for the athletic portion of it and the academic portion of it as well.
Parents loved it too.
Yep.
That's great,
Mhm.
okay.
Right, so we've been working with St. Luke's this year. We got to update our vehicles that we use for them to get around our campus here. So As you know, we updated one of those vehicles 2 years ago when I first came on board. We updated to the Yamaha. We went to them again, they gave us a price, and, you know, I driving around the community, looked at one of our own community members who has a business here in the community, Azzy Motorsports. I don't know if you know where they're at, up on 115. And we went to him and we had shared, you know, what the purpose of this is and all. And he was able to give 2 machines at the price of what Ertl was going to give us 1 machine at. If you move on to the next one, please. The first machine that he offered us at retails for $12,000. He's able to give it to us for $9,000. It has the doors, the front back windshield, just like you see there, and the bed, and it has the support. Golf carts don't have shocks and all to it, so that they wear out quicker. As you know, on golf courses, those are fleet carts, so they renew them every year. We haven't had those golf carts for quite some time. What little suspension they have is not that good anymore. Let's just say the bum hurts a little bit after you ride around the fields in it. So this would be vehicle number 1. And then he had another smaller one that he could offer us with that shelf on the back for $65, $97, $99. These are bigger than the golf carts that we have. Their suspension and drive is much better for the campus that we have getting across our turf fields and all. The quote, I believe, is on the next page there. And again, it's a community-based company, and talking with our trainers and all, we felt that we could give that business to our community because they're here, they're paying their taxes and all into our community, into our district. He's also a graduate of Pleasant Valley, and he was really nice to talk to, and we thought that he could provide us with the vehicles that we needed. And that's all I have.
I just want to touch base real quick, not on the meeting that you have on the 26th.
Yes.
With also, I'm guessing PBYA, some feeder.
So we invited everyone who is in our system, who rents our buildings, from the Crochet Club to PBYA to.
So at some point, maybe this isn't the timing of it, maybe it is, but at some point, I want to make sure that we have a conversation about putting emphasis on our feeder programs for sports. I've been a Little League coach for 6 years. Son plays PBYA basketball. He's going to be just as wildly unsuccessful as I will by the time he's in high school, but he loves it. And I don't know. I don't think that Pleasant Valley is where we're at compared to other areas or other schools with our feeder programs.
I totally agree with you on that.
And so when
there's going to be some change, I believe, in PBYA coming through.
With the renovations, what I'm asking though, when you're having these conversations, I know it has to be fluid right now. I know there's going to be some changes, but I just want to ensure that these feeder programs, that we are going to do our best to find these space. They're asking me questions right now about Polk, Eldred, anything that we could possibly do. But what I've seen and what they've brought up to me is that in the past year, there have been circumstances where somebody would take up a gym and a half when realistically they only need a half gym or something like that. So I don't know who really looks into the details of that, but I just wanted to share that feedback with you.
So I think one of the issues that we came across, Mr. Smell and myself, is when some of these groups put in, they just put their group name, but they have several different sports that they cover.
Okay.
And they don't put in what sport is using the gym at that time. So for us, we can't prepare them for, and that's one of the things we want to bring up.
A little detail.
Is more detail when you're requesting to use our facility, because our custodial staff doesn't know how to set up if you're putting just a blanket name down. Like West End Little League, they always use the old gym, and there's a reason why, because that's where the batting cages are, and that's why they're going in there to use those. And we know that going into that. But when some groups like PBYA, they put PBYA, we don't know if it's field hockey, because field hockey falls under that. We don't know if it's lacrosse, because lacrosse falls under that, or basketball, what level. And that's some of the things that Mr. Smell and I did talk about, was they need to be more specific when they are requesting our facilities as
Thank
well.
you. Yeah, that's what
And we want to keep it to 2-hour blocks. Some people take like 2.5, and it messes up the flow of things sometimes. Even with our own in-house sports, I told our coaches, we need to keep it to 2 hours. You know, not 2 hours and 15 minutes, not 2 hours and 30. Let's keep it to 2 hours so we can give everyone ample opportunity to use our facility. Because as you are well aware, we don't have, like many other communities, we don't have a community
Recreation
center
center.
where people can go like this. We don't have a Sharon Center like Forks Township has. We don't have Bethlehem Township, Community Center like Bethlehem Township has. Our buildings are our community centers here in this community. Any other questions?
Any questions from community on athletics?
Is that the last thing?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. One other topic, I think. All right, under other, cell phones and water bottles.
So I have to be honest, I'll kick it off.
All right, thank you.
And again, if the rest is the time, then we won't dive into it now, but I think we need to do a better deep dive into this. One, cell phones, if they're not supposed to have them on them, they shouldn't have them on. And end of story, right? If that's, there's schools out there that phones are not in possession of the kids when they're walking out through the facilities. They're in their lockers. We need to figure out something better. And again, it's not that today, we're not gonna solve it today. I understand that 100%. I just, my bringing that we need to work on a plan.
Are you speaking basically high school or high school?
We speak district-wide.
But you're seeing problems at the high school?
We just saw one in the middle school.
Well, that, with a, well, yeah.
So I mean,
Okay.
they're everywhere. I mean, and I tested it on Friday. I texted one of my daughters and I get a response right back. So, you know, we got to figure out that it's a problem. It's a distraction and it creates problems on top of that. When all of us went to school, we didn't have cell phones. Parents were able to call the school and get a hold of them when they had to pull Johnny out. So it can be done. Surprise, but it can be done.
I did just want to share, Mr. O'Keefe, too, that, so we did update this policy, which is 237 electronic devices, August 22nd of 24 of this year. And what we actually changed, one of the major things was, if you look on the second page, it says the board prohibits use of personal electronic devices by students during instructional time in classrooms and including the following locations, not limited to auditorium, locker rooms, bathrooms, laboratories, health suites, and other changing areas at any time. So, and I think that there probably are some differences, and I know I shared that with the board, in terms of when I think about cell phone usage and trying to educate our students and to be young, respectful and responsible adults, that there's kind of that progression, right? So right now, and Mr. McCutcheon's here too, to verify that the students in the middle school, like they have a cell phone on them, right? I think a lot of parents, in my opinion, would probably want their children in middle school and high school to have cell phones on them, just for responsibility, high school students for work and stuff like that. But in the middle school, correct me if I'm wrong, it's supposed to be like away, not seen, and I mean, they should probably put it in the locker. Some of them might have it on them personally, but again, I think that's where we need to work with our students more. We need to work with our staff because I'm sure that they're getting like write-ups and referrals. Conversely, like when we go to the high school and they transition, one of the things that we're trying to emphasize is, because we had a heck of a time with cell phones last year in classes, so we're trying to get them to understand, like, okay, in that 47 minutes I have class, I shouldn't be on my cell phone, but if I need to go out, if mom texted me, or my work, which a lot of the students were telling me, like, text me, hey, can you work this afternoon? I want to make sure that they're accessible because, for all of us, if we're in the middle of a meeting and we get 2-3 phone calls from the spouse, we're probably going to step out of the meeting, even if it's a board meeting. So our goal was like to try to transition that, but I agree with you. We definitely have like some work to do. And I think the guardrails we need to make sure is that as we're communicating those like grade level expectations, which I know they're having the grade level meetings, that there's consequences that go along with it, 100%. Because I think that it's problematic if kids can sneak on the side real quick, text the parent back when the rules aren't to keep it away. So I think we need to have more than just